Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good Saturday morning, DamFam. How are you all doing? And welcome to some bonus beaver, because hey, why not get a little beaver on the weekend too? Right? Oh man. Oh, I see the gang's all here. Sorry, we're going to do a little odd intro today because we normally don't do Saturdays, and there are some people in the chat like hello, Kit Jason, who we don't get to see regularly because well, he starts work when, just before we do the show. So not able to tune in, but able to join us. So I'm wondering who we're going to get on a Saturday. We might get some people we don't usually get to chat with. So, so nice that you are all here. So, and of course, Kit Aussie Pete, who designed our graphics for the show. Thank you so very much. Who is um, I don't know if there's any left, but recently baked himself a lovely cakey treat. Mm. I think it was your first ever carrot cake attempt. How did it turn out? How did it taste? I want to know. I want to know. And of course, Kits and Cubs. I don't know if I had a chance to share the news. I think I did, but Kit Pete wasn't here. But someone has joined the. Hold on. Wait a minute. I have to do this here because I believe we have something. Yeah. I got a little fuzzy there for a second. Kids and Cubs, it would appear that our dear Kit Pete has joined the ranks of the homeowners recently. So, yay! Oh, God, I hope I get an opportunity to come and visit real soon. I've always wanted to go to Australia. I've never had a chance to go. I almost had, well, I had a chance once when I was a kid. It was an exchange program until my foster parents realized that they would have to take in a kid too, and they wouldn't get paid for taking in that kid. And then they quashed my dream. So, never got to go to Australia, but I am hoping to really, really soon. We were sort of talking about maybe next January. I don't know if Alex will be ready for that. Then I know I am. I've been ready since I was 12. Let's go, man. But if not not this coming January, hopefully the one after that. But yeah. I definitely want to go to Australia. I want to go for a decent amount of time. If I had my druthers and I had the ability, I would stay in the whole area for a longer bit of time and stop in New Zealand and Fiji and a couple of other places and just take a whole tour of the area. But I don't know. I've just always been fascinated with Australia. I think it's just when I was a kid because I was in a foster home and we didn't have money. I did never thought I was really going to see the world. That the first time I traveled, which was all the way from Ottawa to Niagara Falls, by the way, I got bit by wanderlust, and Australia just seemed like the furthest possible place from here I could get. Um, so that's where the fascination came from. And then the people are just really, really nice. Of course, I keep on hearing, I don't know if that's true, but everything that flies, crawls, slithers, uh, is trying to kill you in Australia. Uh, I don't do well with the creepy crawlies, so that might be a bit of a cultural experience or a bit of a culture shock for me. But yes, congratulations, my good friend, on the home ownership, and yeah, I am I am very, 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 very much looking forward to coming to visit. And well, and if I could time it that way, because I'm a big tennis nerd, hopefully I could time it at the same time as the Australian Open and maybe catch a match or two. Although again, I don't know how I will do sitting in the stands on a day that feels like 43. Sometimes I watch it on TV and you can see like the cameras catch like the heat and everything sort of like shimmers, like you have that on TV. It can get pretty hot down there. Often they invoke a heat rule sometimes as well during the matches. So I don't know. Uh, perhaps the only people on Earth weather hardier, at least when it comes from heat, uh, as our Canadians when it comes to cold. Because wow, um, it's well, I mean, you know, there's the big desert in the middle of the country, so it can get pretty hot down there. So I've been told. So and well, of course, January is summer there, right? So yay! But I don't care. I don't care. I will dive headfirst into the risk. I will take a chance. Plus, the best part of all, of course, is not only realizing a dream and then getting to watch the Australian Open and being in Australia and hopefully sharing that with my beaver sweetie, but having some quality time with my dear friend who I love very, 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 very much. So, yeah, very excited about the possibility. It's on the bucket list, and hopefully, we're going to make it happen sooner rather than later. Um, okay, kits and cabs. Big thank you goes to our podcast funding sponsors, the Pepper Masters, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Of course, I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, he, Mr. Beaver A. And not with me this morning is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Apologies for not being able to have done the show as scheduled yesterday, where we could have been together with Mr. Grizzly because I did see him pop on. Yesterday, maybe as you know, Kits and Cubs, my beaver sweetie and I have been having the trouble with our vehicle when we were taking off for our vacation in February. We were driving to the airport in Toronto from where we are here at the Beaver Lodge, and about 20 minutes, 25 minutes away from home, the engine just completely seized. We've had it at the shop. We've been doing a whole bunch of tests and diagnostics and things of the like. Um, of course, we bought a used car when we bought it, so we were looking at stuff with regard to the warranties and stuff and things that expired. Um, so it was looking like we'd have to do something anyway because the car was not going to be able to be that much usable other than just for like sort of local driving until the engine completely ceases. So, which is why we can't go on any highways or anything because you don't want the engine to seize right in the middle of a lane on the 401. That could be potentially dangerous. Um, so we started looking at some new cars, looking at some EVs, doing the costing, the pricing, even with the rebate. It was doable. But then we had to look at quality of life issues, right? What are the things we wouldn't be able to do because we are taking on this monthly fee for X number of months with a new car? Um, So we were pondering it, and it seems, and doing the math on a whole bunch of things, and it seems that the best option for us might be getting an actual uh, a new engine for the old car because the bones of it are very good. I mean, if you look at the car from the outside, you could almost never tell. Uh, it's a, I think it is a 2015. It was very well taken care of, but it seems that there was the engines on these models were never particularly good. It would appear. Some of them had even been recalled, but not for this model. So we were looking at that to see if there were any recalls or stuff like that. But it seems that on these vehicles, the transmissions are absolutely spectacular. We were doing the math and we said, even if we got a new engine, whatever price, and the retailer who sold us the car, the retailer, well, I guess, yeah, retailer is the word, but it was not a brand new car, it was a used car, felt really bad. Is feeling terrible, actually, because, when you go and buy a used car, you expect it to last more than 17 months. So, um, there was something that was missed by pretty much everybody that was wrong with it, so he's feeling bad, so we might be able to get it installed for, almost nothing. I think that's something like $120 an hour or $140 an hour to do. Um, so it seems that they have been able to locate an engine that's not only not new, but that has been completely refurbished, which means, from what we've told, has been completely taken apart, and everything that was not okay with it replaced, and all that kind of stuff, which would probably be better than a brand spanking new engine, given that it would appear that the company never decided to fix the problem with the engine. I guess they did the math and decided it was um, more worth their while to replace them than to actually fix whatever the problem was. So, um, if we can get one that everything has been taken apart and everything has been looked at and then put together, uh, that might actually be the best possible option. Because if anything was wrong with it originally, then it would have been fixed at this point. And even if it lasts a year, if it lasted just a year and we had to do it again, um, it would be, at that point, I think about $200 less per month, um, than just leasing a new electric one. So it seems that we're going to go down that road. Yesterday, we got the call yesterday that that engine was available. So it wasn't a used one, it wasn't a completely new one, but something in the middle that might actually be better than both those things combined. So we went over and we chatted, and we made the decision to buy it and have it installed. So hopefully, we will have our vehicle again, full running, um, before the end of the month, because we are hoping to go camping on the last weekend of the month, and we can't do that with the vehicle that we currently have, and we would prefer not to have to rent one. So, um, fingers crossed, but, yeah, that's the big decision. This has been ongoing since, like, February 1st, so it's, May 1st, so it's 3 months, so it's been a while. It's been a while. There's been a lot of research and math and talking about stuff, particularly, like, me personally, since I'm completely useless in these conversations. I mean, they won't even let me have a driver's license because I'm such a menace behind the wheel, so I don't know much about cars, so I'm not particularly useful. But, I was useful in the sense of, thinking of, you know, calculating what would be the monthly payments for each of the various scenarios, and finally, kind of figuring out that by a wide margin, going the route of a new engine, even if we got a brand spanking new engine and had it installed at full price, would still be, um, should something go wrong with it after 1 year. Uh, Less expensive than leasing for a year, and hey, if that happens, we change the engine after a year, it peters out, and it really is a problem with the engine, then we get something new and we're no worse off, right? So yeah, that's the thing that we are doing there. Yes, Kit Linda, I watched the show last night. He was hiding. Mr. Grizzly was. highlighting on his show yesterday, if you didn't see it, an EV company, I believe from China, that has found the batteries that my beaver sweetie has been working on is lithium ion, but I believe they're working on sodium ion, which is another technology which allows cars to operate for much longer range and in much, much, much colder temperatures than what's out there now. So yeah, hopefully that will be coming down the pike soon. But for our purposes right now, it looks like we are going to keep the old car and put in a refurbished engine, and hopefully it will cost us less than $5,000 to do that, given that the labor will be not free, but as close to free as it can be without um, them taking a too big a hit. Let's just put it that way, or close enough to free to allow them to break even. Let's say. Um, but yeah, and then of course, if we had gotten the electric car, we would have had to do the thing to put the charger, install the charger down here, which we already did half that work by changing our electricity up from 110 when we did the renovations when we moved in when we got to the Canada Greener home grants because upgrading your electrical capability so that you could install a charger was one of the things that was covered. So we did that. Um, all right. Let's get to the reason why we're here today. That's enough of a personal update, other than the fact that I did get to play tennis yesterday, and I may have found somebody to play with this year who is better enough uh, than me that it's pretty much guaranteed he is going to win, but not so good that I got blasted off the courts yesterday. At one point, we were at like 5-1, and it looked like it was gonna, it was gonna be tougher. And I made a respectable game out of it in the end. We play one set to eight, and it ended up 8-4. I even won 2 games in a row at one point. Hey. So, I think I may have found a tennis partner, that's, for this year that may be fun to play with because my usual ones, the first 2, pulled the stunt on me this year that I pulled on them. They got injured at the beginning of the season, so neither of them are gonna be back till July. So it's like, "Ah." But yeah, found someone, like I said, just maybe a notch or 2, above my level so that we have good fights, we have good points, most likely, he wins them, but I feel like I have a chance and I can improve and I can try things. I have a feeling we might play often together this year, against each other, and, who knows, the doubles tournament, comes in, July. Maybe, maybe a doubles partner, who knows? That would be fun. So yeah, I am very, very excited. So today, Kits and Cubs, I just wanted to come in and have a show because there's been so much good news. There's been so much news. Period. It's not all good. Really. Um, so much news that and big stuff, right? I mean, if we're looking like last weekend, right? There was the White House uh, Correspondents Association dinner, and then there was the incident that happened there. Um, um, Still, people trying to figure out how the person in question got that close in the first place. Um, but whatever happens there will happen there. Um, and then, of course, this week we had over the weekend we had the prime minister dropping the sovereign wealth fund bomb on us, which got tongues wagging. And then the following day, we had the spring economic update, which got more tongues wagging because number one, the deficit wasn't as large as stated or as predicted just 6 months ago, but also there was a marquee program in there with regard to skilled trades that got a lot of attention. There were other measures in there as well, but that was the marquee one. And then, of course, south of us, we had the King of England. Uh, visiting the United States, and which everybody was pretty much describing beforehand would be an exercise in humiliation. Essentially, they had sent the king to basically be in a position of humiliation in order to try to smooth things over for the nation because of trade issues with Donald Trump and Donald Trump's seeming lack of affection for Keir Starmer. It would seem that Keir Starmer is this version, uh, Trump 2.0's Justin Trudeau. Yeah, he's the one he seems to like to pick on. So, and everybody thought, like, why are we doing this to an old man and like sending him out like a sacrificial lamb to embarrass himself? And um, King Charles, gotta say, like he did in Canada when he came to read the speech from the throne, and we saw there was a little section in there, like 30 seconds or 45 seconds or whatnot, that was his own that he got to put in there, that wasn't written for him. Um, the king came and he served. Kind of let it be known in a extremely diplomatic way, as is the way of the royals. Buddy, this is my turf, and I love it. I love it a lot. In fact, every time I come back, I get even more fonder of it. My turf. You may want to back that truck up. Of course, in a royal diplomacy with a British accent, of course. Um, and then for those of us who listened to what the king had to say, uh, when those addresses came out and they were public, um, it was really interesting to, first of all, watch the Americans who broke away so that they could have a republic, getting lessons in democracy from a monarch, and monarch from the family that they broke away from. That was kind of interesting. Uh, but there were lots of quips and that dry British humor that if you live in the Commonwealth, you are more likely to get the color and the texture and the subtext and everything. And King Charles went to the United States and served up a meal. In fact, he served up a feast of little quips and quotes like that, that had the Americans cheering and applauding and whatnot because either they did not understand what was going on, or I don't know what. But if you were living in good old Canada and you were hearing King Charles talk about, bring up that moment where Donald Trump said, if it wasn't for the Americans, all the Europeans and the British would probably be speaking German now. King Charles coming up and saying, if it wasn't for us, you'd probably all be speaking French. And them laughing like the ha 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 ha, right? Because there's this long story between the United States and France. That's why, the Statue of Liberty was gifted by the French uh, to the United States. There's the French. For those who are paying attention to history, you'll sometimes hear a president say, not often, but sometimes, is their actual oldest ally as a nation. Um, but for those of us who were in Canada, we understood what that joke meant. Really, didn't we? Oh man, Kid Bucky, that was the best part. The GOP jumping to their feet, thunderously applaud the king's less than subtle digs. Americans, it was a great speech. Canadians laughing their asses off. It was the best speech ever. It says, really? Yeah, it was great. Oh, yeah, yeah. Only in Canada, you say, eh? Pity. I'm thinking of those Red Rose commercials when I was a kid. Oh yeah, Kid Saucy. You should watch it. For those who were wondering whether or not King Charles would be this bumbling buffoon who would definitely, uh, kill the monarchy for sure. All respect for it would be lost. Old guy seems to be doing a rather good job. Just saying. handled that speech from the throne very well, handled that first visit very well, handled this visit very well. In fact, he went to the United States and even got a tariff reduced on British whiskey. Of course, simultaneously, though, however, or soon after, Donald Trump broke his deal with Europe by slapping a 25% extra tariff on everything. But hey, lower tariffs on British whiskey, though. What is it with conservatives and booze, man? Seriously. uh, but yeah, doing those digs, heading off, I think, to Bahamas after that. Understanding indigenous peoples when they go over and have an audience with the king, seem to come back repeatedly with the feeling that he really does understand and he gets it. Also, was an environmentalist before being environmentalist was cool. Got mocked even for that. Now he seems like he's at the cutting edge and somewhat a little hip. Just interesting. And of course, doing all of this in the United States, of course, sending them to do that while he's undergoing treatment for cancer as well, right? Because he doesn't have enough going on. So yeah, um, Kitsasi here. I think King Charles is doing very well. People underestimated Charles because the media made fun of him for caring about the environment. Well, there you go. See what I was saying. Kit Linda, Charles has been a lot more capable than I ever thought he'd be. Because saucy Canadians learned our pettiness from the Brits. Oh, is that where I get it from? I thought I just got it from being fabulous. Maybe I got a double dose. Oh man, jeez. Uh, wow. Linda says, "Is there some kind of protocol that the military doesn't applaud a foreign dignitary? I noticed they never clapped for anything." Huh? That could be. Always at attention. Can't be distracted by clapping. If you're clapping, you're paying attention to the speech and you're not standing guard. Maybe. If I was going to make an educomificated guess. But yeah, um, that I actually do not know. I do not know at all. So yeah, that went on. And then we got everything going on in Iran, right? Is Hormuz open? Is Hormuz not? Do we have a peace deal? Do we not have a peace deal? Are they talking? Are they not? All of that is happening. Uh, there's a lot of news, even worldwide, but locally too, just Canada. There's just been a lot of news with all of that, right? Particularly this week, a lot of economic news. And a lot of it, or budgetary or financial news, related news, but there was a lot more of it than what we were able to get to. And I mean, like, when I mean a lot, I mean a lot more of it that we were not able to get to. And just because the events were going so fast, I couldn't actually get to it during the show. So I figured I would do an extra one today to, oh, Kit Elaine. It's love and it's real. Your pettiness is natural, dear queen. Oh, jeez. Flattery will get you everywhere with this old queen. Oh man. Um, so yeah, but let's go back a little bit here. Canada, because I tried to do this on a show and I sort of winded around a little bit, but more compact and concise over the past little bit here in Canada. We're May 1st now. Let's go back to March 12th, right? That's when the Prime Minister was about to head to Norway to meet with the President of Norway, and of course, discussing Norway with the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world, seeing how they could invest here and then, of course, go on to observe a NATO military exercise. But prior to doing that, he was up in Yellowknife, if I'm not mistaken, adding 3 projects to the major projects list. and doing for the North that which Stephen Harper created, since Pierre likes the word illusion he was doing by taking his annual trip there, but never followed through upon. He never did actually invest in the infrastructure that was required. Here, it's going to happen. With that, there were three projects announced, one of them being the Mackenzie Valley Highway project that the Prime Minister keeps on reminding he's been hearing about all his life, so for about 60 years. And they are going to break ground on that this very summer. Um, then, on March 26th, the budget implementation bill, which had been discussed a lot, suddenly got royal assent by passing on division. They didn't even hold a recorded vote. It just they didn't want to. It just, I guess, the conservatives. That was one thing the conservatives didn't want clips of, is them passing the budget. So they passed it on division. Uh, and I believe I will go back and check to be sure what that means, but I believe, because I did read it into the record. Uh, but what on division means is that um, that I believe uh, it signals that there was disagreement in the vote, uh, but members did not force a recorded vote. They didn't object so not they didn't object so much. They wanted it to be recorded for time immemorial that they were opposed to this budget. But I'm going to guess, given this current iteration of conservatives, is because they didn't want the clips of them at this moment, either voting for or voting against the budget, because at the time this was happening, the Liberals did not have the majority yet. They certainly built the bridge, burned the bridge with Elizabeth May, so they weren't going to get her vote. And given that the Conservatives were embarrassed on the vote for the budget itself, when believe it was Scott Reed, I think it was, and Andrew Scheer were observed hiding behind curtains to see whether or not which one of their votes, which way their votes would need to go to ensure that the Conservatives, who keep on telling us that Mark Carney is terrible, just like Justin, and just another liberal and all that kind of stuff, although they weren't saying just another liberal back then. They hadn't clued into that slogan line yet. It was so terrible, just so terrible, but not terrible enough for them to vote non-confidence and provoke another election, though. So yeah, uh, I'm guessing the Conservatives didn't want to repeat of that. So the vote passed on division, but the budget implementation bill is passed. That was March 26th. Got royal assent on March 26th. On the 30th of March, Mark Carney, along with Doug Ford, were together to announce $8.8 billion to reduce over 10 years, of course. No, sorry, not over 10 years. $8.8 billion, sorry. Over 10 years is the infrastructure money. $8.8 billion for Ontario to reduce development charges to 2018 levels. And hopefully that would spur on some additional construction, because housing starts were down instead of up. And particularly in Ontario, Doug Ford has had a very, very, very hard time building those homes that he's been promising, running on for quite a long time, actually, and not getting done for the people, apparently. Then on April 7th, that's when the Prime Minister announced about $51 billion over 10 years for the Building Community Strong Fund for infrastructure projects, smaller local infrastructure projects. The very next day, on April 8th, he announced the second of the major projects that he had originally listed the first time was going forward. The first one was the Darlington project, the nuclear project at Darlington, to put in place 4 small modular reactors there. I think making that would make Ontario the first jurisdiction in the world to have them, if I'm not mistaken on that. Don't quote me on that. But I do believe that that is the thing. Um, the innovation here that will happen. Um, that project specifically uh, started already. I believe it started in, oh my God, can't remember when it started. But where it stands now, I'll have to look at that. Um, So it says here now, Kit Elaine was once asking me about, I saw that in the chat, whether or not that thing was finished already. Um, there was a Darlington refurbishment construction project that wrapped in 2013 or 2023. Just want to make sure I got that. In 2023, this is from Ontario Power Generation on July 15th. It said, after a decade of thorough planning, another 9 years of careful and safe execution, and millions of hours work, construction work on OPG, so that's Ontario Power Generation's ambitious 4-unit Darlington refurbishment, is now complete, and the overall project is forecast to be delivered 4 months ahead of schedule and $150 million under budget. Ooh, that's kind of rare that happens. And the refurbishment project replaced 1,920 fuel channels, 3,840 feeder pipes, and created 14,200 jobs on average annually, generating $90 billion in economic benefits for Ontario. 96% of the project money was spent within Ontario, and it secures 3,512 megawatts for 30 plus years. So that was the refurbishment project to expand, I guess, the life itself. Um, but then this specific project here um, is to put in 4 SMRs, small modular reactors. So the first refurbishment that I talked to you about was $12.8 billion project of the 4 existing CANDU units. So this will be adding 4 planned GE Hitachi BWRX 300 small modular reactor units. Following a license issued by the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, the project's on track to be the first, there we go, the first commercial SMR build in the G7. Okay, not in the world, with the first unit expected to be in service by 2030. That particular project has already started. And 2 days ago, the government of Ontario announced that Ontario completed a major milestone on the first reactor. Here it says, as part of its plan to protect Ontario, whatever, and build a more competitive, resilient, and self-reliant economy, the Ontario government reached a major construction milestone on the G7's first small modular reactor. Today, at the CNA 2026 conference, Minister Stephen Lecce announced that a £2.1 million base mat module for the Unit 1 SMR was lifted and installed at the Darlington New Nuclear Project site. This precision lift, the equivalent of lifting more than 3 Airbus A380 airliners, was executed by one of the world's largest crawler cranes, lowering the material within millimeter precision, and represents the first foundation of a new nuclear reactor to be built in Ontario in over 30 years. Once complete, the Darlington New Nuclear Project's 4 SMRs will produce 1,200 megawatts of electricity, enough to power 1.2 million homes. So that is happening. According to Minister Lecce, that project will create 18,000 good-paying jobs. And says here, let's see here. And says, for the first time, Ontario has secured over 100 Canadian-based businesses to help build the components for SMRs, infusing over $500 million into Ontario's economy. Our government is deeply committed to building more in Canada, which is why we are proud to invest at least 80% of every dollar in the Canadian supply chain. In addition, the government is announcing that the SMR supply chain has grown to more than 100 Canadian companies, building on more than 80 Ontario building on the more than 80 Ontario companies, including northern and rural suppliers that have already signed agreements with Ontario Power Generation and its partners to deliver its first of the kind project. 16 new Ontario based companies and 6 companies from Quebec and Alberta have joined the supply chain to support the SMR builds. Recently awarded contracts include a contract for structural steel for $44.5 million to Walters Group in Hamilton, an award for $17.8 million for a contract for condensate purification package to Marmon Industrial Water, based in Toronto, a $9.9 million contract for the reactor building weather enclosure going to Tractel, which is based in Scarborough, and an $8.8 million contract for sampling and collection tanks, which has gone to Hooper Welding, based in Oakville. Um, so that's kind of a again the even though this is something that I was explaining at some point when this started, it's like even though the project won't be operational until 2030, it is creating jobs now, right? It is generating economic benefit now. All these people that are getting paid these contracts, and then when people get paid, and that money circulates into the economy, and you get the multiplier effect of all that. This stuff is already happening. It's not happening on a huge scale because we're right at the beginning, but things are already starting to happen. When you got Pierre Poilievre saying there are no results, you have some results here. These contracts have been written, they are signed, right? The work is starting, or has started, even in this case. The construction, operation, and maintenance of the 4 units will add $38.5 billion to Canada's GDP over the next 65 years. The government has worked with Ontario Power Generation to ensure that 80% of project spending goes to Ontario companies and that construction and operations will protect Ontario workers and jobs by sustaining an estimated 3,800 highly skilled, good paying jobs for the next 65 years. So that is happening already. That's the first major project. Shovels in the ground, people are getting paid, contracts are being written. It's happening. It's a real thing. Um, on April 8th, so we have I mentioned April 7th, the $51 billion over 10 years for the Building Community Strong Fund for Infrastructure. We have this Darlington project. And then on April 8th, the government announced that shovels were going to be in the ground very soon, that the project had got the final go ahead. The second major project, which was the port expansion at Contrecoeur near Montreal, which is another project, I believe, that had been being discussed in some form for about 40 years and is now happening. The final permits have been handed out, and it's got the go ahead. It's a $2.3 billion initiative to build a major container terminal in Contrecoeur, Quebec, designed to handle 1.15 million 20-foot equivalent units annually by 2030. 20-foot equivalents, or TEUs, those are the containers. The project broke ground in April 2026 to increase capacity by 60% and enhance supply chain efficiency. The port expansion got a loan from the Canadian Investment Bank. This is something that the Conservatives frequently mock. A lot of people are wondering as well whether or not, the sovereign wealth fund, we need another wealth fund. What's it going to do different than the Canadian Investment Bank does? And there are some legitimate questions, and we don't know all the details about that yet because we don't. There's going to be a public consultation period for the sovereign wealth fund, and we don't know everything that is. How everything's going to look in terms of modalities and structure and all of that kind of stuff. So we don't have the answer to those things yet. Now, the Canadian Infrastructure Bank didn't get off to the best start. That's for sure. It is doing better. It is starting to hit its stride, if one would call it that. It has so far reached 108 investments with over $18.1 billion committed. However, The CIB, Canadian Infrastructure Bank, is a federal crown corporation that was established in 2017 to modernize how Canadian infrastructure is funded, and it acts as an impact investor using $35 billion in federal capital to attract private and institutional investment for revenue-generating projects that serve the public interest. The Sovereign Wealth Fund is going to have $25 billion in it. It's also going to be built to attract private and institutional investment for revenue generating projects that serve the public interest. So that's why people are wondering, what is the real difference? One of the differences the Prime Minister told us is that ordinary people will be able to invest in it. But other than that, how is it different? We don't know yet. So some people are wondering if it's just marketing, right? We don't know. We don't know. But the Canadian Infrastructure Bank has, like I said, made 108 investments. 89 new infrastructure projects are in construction, and 315,217 jobs during construction have been created. It would appear, that's at least according to the Canadian Infrastructure Bank. And some of the projects in which they've invested are the Calgary International Airport Aviation Hub, Alberta Irrigation Systems for Southern Alberta, the Réseau Express Métropolitain, or the REM in Montreal, which I believe is their light rail service, or their lighter rail service for commuters from outside the Montreal region. So the bank is starting to hit its stride. But yes, it's still not getting out, from what I can tell, the amount of money every year um, that it had been hoped to be. One of the reasons for that could be simply is that there might not be um, a high enough number of these high level projects or at the time to invest in. That is going to change. That is not going to be an issue now. So the Port of Montreal got a 1.16 billion cash injection from the bank. That will help. The expansion, estimated to cost $2.3 billion overall, will more than double the container handling capacity for the port. Prime Minister Carney announced the new funding, which is at Contrecoeur, which is about 45 kilometers northeast of Montreal. He called it a big, ambitious project that will be transformative for the country. The loan that the Canadian Infrastructure Bank will put out has been provided to the Montreal Port Authority itself, and that's according to information released by the Crown Corporation, significantly increasing the amount of its previous loan from 300 million. Transport Canada had also pledged 150 million, and Quebec, the government of Quebec, 130 million, with the balance to come from the Port Authority and the terminal operator itself. The 60% increase will allow the port to handle up to 1.15 million standard shipping containers carrying everything from food to furniture per year. The target date for the first shipments is 2030. Let's see. What else do we have here? I think this is the Prime Minister who stated this. War in the Middle East, Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine, and the new trade regimes are all reshaping the global economy in real time. Canada is focused on what we can control, building a more stronger, more independent, and more resilient economy, bolstered by international trade with a diverse set of reliable partners. But industry specialists say it's also a big bet that traffic at the terminal will justify the investment. Quote, "It's like an act of faith," said Jacques Roy, professor emeritus at HEC's, that's l'École des Hautes Études Commerciales of Montreal's Department of Logistics and Operations Management. Quote, "My concern is that the Montreal Port Authority is borrowing money that eventually they will have to repay with future earnings, and there's a lot of uncertainty about those earnings." Bank officials sought to ease those worries Thursday, saying their repayment schedule is flexible and linked to the port's overall growth. The Canadian Infrastructure Bank, will get paid out of a share of the cash flows from the Port of Montreal's consolidated business, Bank Chief Executive Aaron Corey said, noting repayments will go up or down according to revenue. Quote, "We created a shared incentive for the port and the private operator on the port to drive volumes because they have skin in the game too. We see this as a way to get a major port expansion done in a way that's lowest cost to taxpayers." It says here the bank and the Port Authority have worked with credit ratings firm S&P Global to review the loan and believe they will view it positively. Mr. Corey said the bank's loan last year to Aéroport de Montréal to support infrastructure improvements at Montreal Trudeau International Airport has a similar design. So that's the one I mentioned here. If you'll excuse me for a second, kids and cubs, I just got to cough. I have a little something stuck in my throat. Well, okay, that's a little better. Um, so this is happening here at what else does it say here? Um, so yeah, yeah, that's about the major stuff with regard to this. So the Contrecoeur project has started. The Darlington Nuclear SMR project is started this summer. The Mackenzie Valley Highway project will start. So we have three major projects, fewer than 2 years in, where there are shovels in the ground. That's a pretty good turnaround. That would be a pretty good turnaround for him. So that is going very well for the Liberals. Then, of course, after he made that announcement from the 9th to the 11th of April was the Liberal convention. And then when we got to the 13th, we had the by election, which the Liberals won. They won all three by elections. The Conservative vote completely cratered. That was a big problem. And then, of course, a few days before the convention, the Liberals also got the gift of Marilyn Gladu crossing the floor. So a lot has been going quite well for the Liberals lately. Of course, those three by election wins with the cratered Conservative vote. Pretty much meant that the Conservative Party of Canada, by all of its actions since the date of the election, basically handed a majority to the Liberals. Conservatives can claim all they want that Canadians didn't vote for this, yes, but you guys did a shitty job being the opposition and keeping your caucus together. And that fault would be yours, as much as you're raging and going all about trying to claim that you're victims or that somebody's doing something underhanded or illegal or undemocratic. The problem is today, as it was in the election, leadership. Your guy doesn't have it. The people, the shareholders of Canada do not want to invest in the leadership being offered. The question is competence. Your guy isn't competent. The question is ability to be nimble in times when things are changing. Um, you're conservatives. You're resistant to change. That's in your DNA. Your leaders, particularly resistant to change. Oh my God, is he really resistant to change? The voters of his riding told him to go home, and he still couldn't change. He's still here. God. Can't change, can't pivot. Not the skill set for a world where you got a guy down south who changes his mind more often than some people change underwear. And those people you need to change underwear more often. Just saying. Um, ugh, ugh. It's not good. It's not good. So yeah, all of the actions combined, Pierre Poilievre together doing that video saying he would change and then not bringing about any change, and that podcast interview where he slammed the RCMP and was really, really stupid. Letting Jamil Javani go on a trade mission all on his own, seemingly at cross purposes with that which the party is doing. And then Pierre at the time saying, uh, he speaks for himself. I speak for the party. And well, lo and behold, you know who's back in the planning to go back to the United States or is there right now? Jamil Javadi again. again in Washington, D.C., and in between the 2 trips, Pierre had his little trip to the United States where he didn't go to Washington, D.C. because apparently he has no contacts. But Jamil does, doesn't he? Yeah, Jamil gets to meet, pass through a meeting a room where the president's having a meeting and wave hi, has, JD Vance, his best buddy, and, right now, on this trip, we'll be meeting with, the US Trade Representative, Scott Greer. Of course, he has absolutely no business meeting with the US Trade Representative because he has no mandate whatsoever to negotiate or even speak on behalf of Canada, but, there he is, and, in a recent interview, Pierre does not seem to know why Jamil is there. But you have all the conservative pundits trying to make you believe that, there's nobody waiting in the wings to push Pierre out. Watch your back, PP. Jamil is, coming for your job, and, as you know by our former deep dives, into Jamil, Jamil doesn't also, like you, doesn't play very well with others. Ask Doug Ford. Ask, the people that, Jamil was supposed to be speaking for, when he was, on that committee that Doug Ford put him on. And the people he was supposed to be speaking for were stating that they did not believe that their views were being adequately reflected. Mm, mhm, mhm, yeah. So Pierre has lost control of his cock. Yes, can't control where Jamil Javani's going. Can't stop his MPs from leaving. Just saying, he doesn't have control. And the man who does not have control, it cannot be sold to the Canadian public as a man that's going to go south and then get a no tariff, a no tariff trade deal. Sorry, I laugh whenever I hear no tariffs. Trade deal with Donald Trump with a skill set that is far inferior to that of Mark Carney's, with knowledge and competence and education that is far inferior, with interpersonal skills that are far inferior, with reading comprehension, um, reading retention skills that really suffer. Pierre Polyev cannot appear to be able to understand a single sentence stated in English by someone who is progressive without having to add, omit, or rearrange the words in them to somehow magically understand them completely differently. You would think that a man that cannot understand what he hears and understand what he reads might not be the best person to send into a room to negotiate from a position of strength. Just saying. So yeah, basically, the opposition is offering the current government a lot of help. So he gets his majority. Then the fiscal announces that the fiscal update will come on the 28th, the day before, and drops the bombshell that there will be a sovereign wealth fund. Then we get the update and we find out that the deficit for this year is going to be about $11 billion less, and that there's $6 billion for a trades program, and that your CPP premiums are going to go down, and that there's going to be a financial crime agency established, among other things in there. Um, of course, we have the boost, the bridge and a boost, as the Prime Minister calls it, with regard to food prices. The boost coming on, or the bridge, I should say, coming on June 5th, and then the boost coming with the first GST payment in July, and that continuing on for the next 5 years. People will start seeing that. That will be some good news. So we get the update, right? Other things in there that we mentioned. There was, of course, the deficit. There was the trade stuff, as we mentioned, the lowering the Canada pension plan. But there was also the plan. We had Stephen McKinnon out there on Friday to outsource the complaints resolution portion for the Canadian Transportation Agency, also with fines of possibly up to being boosted to up to $1 million, I believe. McKinnon was stating yesterday. Um, and of course, then there was the changes to the disability tax credit application process, which is probably going to be very well received. And then, of course, changing to sports funding, the biggest investment in sports funding for quite a long time. When I was reading about it and it said $755 million, apparently, uh, I didn't know if that seems to me that didn't seem like a lot, especially the 45 million towards high performance athletes. But based on the commentary that I've been hearing, it seems that 755 million, if not a lot in real numbers, it is a lot compared to historic investments. So maybe that money will go further than I assumed it would. Um, but all these bits of good news, and of course, bits of good news that were chosen specifically and tailored in such a way that would make it very difficult for the opposition parties to oppose it or be mad. I mean, the Conservatives still chose to be mad that we didn't reduce the deficit projections by more than $11 billion, although everybody would be quite impressed with something coming $11 billion under budget. It's not like the Conservatives can complain about $6 billion going into trades, especially as they're trying to position themselves as the Workers' Party and the party of disillusioned young men. Seems here that Mark Carney wants to crowd his turf on that front, and he has an offer that is much more interesting than, yeah, life sucks and I hear your pain. I feel your pain. No conservative is going to object to lowering payroll taxes. In fact, Mark Carney kind of did something smart by going there because he had noticed that Pierre was talking about carbon taxes and talking about taxes on homes and taxes on gas. But what are some of the other taxes that conservatives talk about all the time that we should be cutting? One of them is payroll taxes. So Mark Carney slid in and cut a payroll tax before Pierre could even mention it, so that Pierre can turn around and say, "Are you stealing all our ideas?" Well, you never mentioned this and didn't mention this one. So not only undercutting him on certain turf, crowding him out of certain turf, but seeing the type of turf that Pierre likes to occupy, and now going in and occupying some of the turf before Pierre does, creating a situation where the conservatives have to respond to an innovation. Nobody is going to. Well, the conservatives complain a lot about more democracies. It seems that they are going to put the dispute resolution process backlog to an outside neutral third party. So maybe not creating a new agency. Again, anything that can get better customer service on this should not be something that the conservatives object to. Maybe the conservatives would object to corporations being faced to pay higher fines because, well, they're in the pockets of corporations. But um, getting complaints resolved more quickly shouldn't be. There's no upward PR side to object that. There's no upward PR side to objecting, making it easier for people to obtain their disability tax credits. Just as there was no reason to object to the fact, the change that was made last year about the automatic filing for people with lower incomes to make sure that they get all the benefits to which they are entitled to have without having to explicitly apply for them. It just happens automatically. And then again, sports funding, well, I mean, you know, uh, again, conservatives can talk about, maybe this is a frivolous spending, but they, well, you know what? This one is something I could see Pierre objecting to because remember when our athletes were at the last Winter Games, Pierre wasn't able to say one celebratory thing about them until minutes or seconds prior to the closing ceremony. The whole Olympics went by and he didn't celebrate one single medal. This changed this time around with the recent Summer Olympics, but that may, sorry, the recent Winter Olympics. Sorry, it was the Summer Olympics in Paris that he didn't cheer anything for, but the most recent Winter Olympics changed, but that was probably more as a result of his new campaign manager, Steve Outhouse, controlling his social medias and putting effusive praise for every single medal, which again is what we would expect. From our party leaders, but when we had a party leader who just 2 years ago didn't do it for a single damn medal and is now doing it hyper effusively for every medal, uh, nobody changes that much that quickly. Just saying, was not believable, was not credible. Good that it was done for forum, because it was an easy thing to fix, but not sure that it was not sure it was uh, as successful as one would hope or one would have planned going into it. So that's where we are at the moment. That's all the stuff that got us to where we are. That's a lot of stuff since March 12th. I've had to do all the other things since before. I think on a previous show, I read all the places that he's gone for meetings and all that kind of stuff. But you can see that there's a plan here, right? That I mentioned, right? Going out to the bigger nations with higher populations, going to the nations with sovereign wealth funds, going to nations with high defense needs, going to, right? All these areas. And then the multilateral stuff that he's doing again with trying to create an alternative network for refining of critical minerals and rules-based order for small and medium powers and all that kind of stuff, ways for people to uh, trade more amongst each other and getting people to see the world as it's not just what can we do for the United States, what could we do for the China, what could we do eventually for India, but maybe what could we do for each other. And let's see how the United States, China, and India fit in, how the hegemons fit in. It's another way to go. But somebody has to say it. Somebody that has credibility, legitimacy, and in whom people have trust. Oh, yeah, that would be Mark Carney, based on his track record. Again, I certainly wouldn't want to compare track records with the leader of the opposition. That wouldn't work out very well for him. So while all that is going on, what else has been landing in Canada's pocket? Well, one of the things, kids and cubs, that have been coming our way are deals, lots of deals for lots of things. For example, oops, I got a something pop up here on my thing. Why is this doing this? Okay, this is very weird. Okay. Let me see if I can bring this up somehow, because there was a pop-up on the screen that came in front of the article that I wanted that had the information, and for some reason it was not removable. All right, let's see. There was an aviation investment announced. There we go. I knew I would find it somewhere. From Bloomberg News, Mathieu Dion. Another pop-up. Okay. One last time. Some articles are very difficult. Says here, the Canadian government awarded 3 long-term support contracts worth about $1.5 billion to L3Harris Technologies and Airbus SE as part of its push to increase defense spending. The agreements provide in-service support for Canada's new CC-330 Husky fleet, which will be used for air-to-air refueling, passenger transport, medical evacuation, and strategic missions. L3Harris's military aircraft solutions received 2 contracts totaling $1.1 billion for maintenance services, while Airbus Defence and Space Unit received $374 million contract to supply engineering and airworthiness support, according to a government news release. Canada announced the purchase of 9 Husky aircraft in 2023, 4 new Airbus A330 multi-role tanker transport aircraft, and 5 converted A330-200s for a total cost of $3.6 billion. The fleet will replace the aging CC-150 Polaris aircraft, with the first delivery expected in 2027. The new support contracts have the potential to create and maintain 720 jobs in Ontario, Quebec, and Alberta, and will ensure the fleet can, quote, respond to evolving threats, safeguard our sovereignty, and uphold Canada's enduring commitments to our allies whenever and wherever required, Procurement Minister Joel Lightbound said. And there we go. And that was after about 1 week after the Prime Minister had announced that the government had increased defense spending enough in 2025 to reach NATO's target of allocating 2% of its gross domestic product. So that was another big step, and that was also around. This contract was March 30th, and the announcement that we had reached the 2% target happened around March 23rd. Then, Kits and Cups, there was more news. This comes from Bloomberg.ca. This was March 19th. It says a Canadian graphite company is ready to take on China in the global market and just got a step closer with a hefty federal funding boost as Canada ramps up its critical mineral strategy. Earlier this week, Nouveau Monde Graphite, which is another one of the major projects that was announced in the first round, secured a $459 million $459 million financing package from the Canadian Infrastructure Bank. There we go again, and Export Development Canada to support the construction and commissioning of its Phase 2 Matawini mine in Quebec. Matawini mine is projected to become the largest graphite mine in the G7 once it is operational. It will also be the first in Canada to mine and refine graphite into battery-grade material on a large scale. Quote, we are super competitive against China and against any other mining project in Africa or any other countries, said Éric Desaulniers, founder and president of NMG. Desaulniers said the project's cost structure and long-term off-take agreements position it to compete with China, which dominates the world's critical mineral processing. He says about 75% of the project's future production from the Matawini mine has already been committed through off-take agreements. Wow. The company has major customers like Panasonic Energy committed to a quarter of the production for lithium-ion batteries, as well as Traxys in Texas for refractory bricks. About 20 other agreements, including Canada's defense sector, are covered by an offtake agreement with the federal government and G7 countries for 30,000 tons of production, says Desaulniers. Quote, so with those in hand, we cover all different aspects, all different markets to have a top line that is secured to investors at US $1,334, said Desaulniers, adding that the company's cost projection is about US $419. I'm going to guess that those are numbers that are supposed to be in the millions. And the people talking were talking in shorthand here. Desaulniers says the project's location in Quebec gives it an advantage with access to low-cost clean energy and nearby industrial infrastructure. Quote, 2 hours drive from that mining project, there's a large industrial complex like the Big Anchor Industrial Park where we have one of the cheapest and cleanest electricity sources in the world. We can be a good partner for all the different allied countries. You need diversification from China, but without significant cost increase. Competing with China is more than price, explains Max Ural, a critical minerals analyst at BMO Capital Markets. He says while many Chinese producers sell products at or below cost due to heavy local government subsidies, the market is being split into two systems. Quote, we are seeing a bifurcation of prices between China and the rest of the world, where prices outside China trade at a significant premium to the price in China, Ural says. He says Western buyers are looking to secure supply outside of China due to supply security, environmental concerns regarding production, and tariff restrictions. Quote, additionally, trade restrictions and tariffs create a segmented market where the competitive price for the material is different inside and outside of China. He says this dynamic is playing out. Let's try that again. He says this dynamic is playing out across critical minerals as countries try to build domestic supply chains, and Nouveau Monde agreement helped position it within that market. Let's see where it is here. And it seems that the project is nearing construction. The company is now working towards a final investment decision after securing debt financing, with equity still to be finalized, said Desaulniers. He says the project is largely de-risked. Quote, we have 80% of detail engineering done on the project. Over 50% of CapEx contracts are now signed, said Desaulniers, adding that construction could begin as early as May if the remaining financing is secured. So if shovels get in the ground at Nouveau Monde, sometimes this year, that would be 4 projects of the big ones. Um, that would be really interesting. When you add that, uh, now this is probably not a major one, um, but as we announced a couple of days ago, there's also that Enbridge's $4 billion Sunrise natural gas pipeline expansion that would add 104 kilometers of new looping twinning pipeline to be able to increase our capacity um, to export. And because the project would add 300 million cubic feet per day of transportation capacity on Enbridge's 3.6 billion cubic feet per day West Coast system, which connects gas fields in northeastern BC, northwestern Alberta to the Canada-US border. Um, so that was announced as well, uh, and had nothing to do with all of this other stuff. That was just slid in there as another project uh, to accompany all the ones that had been announced. Then you might have missed this as well, but this is from around March 20th, I think it is, and this appeared in the Globe and Mail. And oops, okay, that is very, very weird. Let me try and see if I can find this in someplace other than the Globe and Mail. But here it says that Kraft and Heinz uh, have announced a $250 million investment into their factory in Montreal. According to Denise Paglinawan of the Financial Post, I'm having a day today with the Financial Post and its pop ups. Very annoying. Um, According to the journalist here, Denise Paglinawan, here, Kraft Heinz Canada says it's going to spend $250 million on its factory in Montreal to increase homegrown manufacturing and production of its brands. The Canadian arm of the American multinational food company on Friday, this is around March 20th, uh, hold on, the thing got lost here. Announced on Friday around the March 20th that it had announced $250 million investment. Uh, well, that's the same sentence written twice. One paragraph after another. That's really okay. Somebody forgot to do some editing on that article. Quote, when demand for a product peaks, we have to import from either the US or sometimes even from our colleagues in Europe because we just don't have the capacity, Simon Laroche, president of Kraft Heinz Canada, said. With these investments, we'll be able to keep all the production here. For example, he said 90% of the Heinz ketchup sold in Canada is made in the country and made from Canadian tomatoes, mostly from Leamington, Ontario. But the company has to import from the United States to satisfy demand during peaks in the summer. Quote, we looked at our next 5 years and it was very clear for us that we needed to invest because we wouldn't be able to fulfill the demand of Canadians for a product. With the new investment, Laroche said the company will be able to make 100 or 99 point something percent of the ketchup needed in Canada in the next 2 to 5 years. Canadians love products made in Canada, Laroche said. The more we can make in Canada from our Canadian factory, that's always a more efficient way to do it, and Canadian consumers love that. Kraft Heinz Canada said the funds will be used for upgrading and modernizing the Mount Royal facility, which employs more than half of the company's 2,000 employees in Canada. The facility, which houses the Canadian subsidiary's main operations, produces brands such as Kraft Dinner, Philadelphia cream cheese, I love my Philly, and Kraft peanut butter, regular and crunchy style. Laroche said the factory is the company's most complex in the world and has 41 different lines. Quote, we need more capacity, more flexibility. We need to find efficiencies and we need reliability, he said. So yeah, it's a big master plan. Laroche said there are also logistics costs when importing products, and the US factories have other markets to support, making it more complicated to get what Canadians need. He also said US tariffs and the growing sentiment to buy Canadian had the company come up with campaigns and commercials to show its products were produced here. A lot of Canadians thought that our products were being imported, and people didn't know that 75% of what we sell in Canada is made in Canada, he said. So, another investment coming. Um, we have talk about, I think we mentioned increased talk now and then about people in Europe being open to the idea that Canada would join the European Union, including the French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot, and I believe the President of Finland, Alexander Stubb. Um, that would be an interesting prospect. However, the main consideration for that is a loss of sovereignty because every country chooses to lose a little bit of sovereignty by being in this union, but particular with regard to our monetary policy specifically. Um, that might be the thing that makes it such that we don't say, "Hey, let's go with this." But if we could still get something similar, like uh, the work provisions where people from Europe can come and work here, and that's okay. And we can work there in the travel positions. You don't necessarily need a passport and all that kind of stuff. Certain elements of being in the zone without having to give up the monetary policy sovereignty. Um, that could be interesting, and there could be a lot of opportunities there. So you don't have to join outright necessarily to get some of the benefits. We have some creative people around the table. If we really want a closer union of some kind, I'm sure that can be arranged without having to go all in. You just leave a good idea to some creative people, and you'll always be impressed. Let's put it that way, with, what comes out. Um, in addition, to those, bits of good news, there were more, and a lot of them, came about this week. One of them Oh, and one of the other things I forgot to mention, of course, was the news, that came out, that, uh I mean, it came out before, but we are really intensifying negotiations with the Mercosur bloc, Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, and Paraguay and Uruguay, a group that represents a GDP of over $3 trillion US and a population of 282 million. Looking to have increased free trade with that bloc, as the EU recently signed. In addition, with that, some uh, big missions to Mexico and Brazil, and then with Mercosur nations. So increased trade with Latin America too. And at the Liberal Convention, I finally, in one of the discussions, heard some people starting to talk about trade with Africa. Hey, we're talking about a continent that is growing very, very fast with lots of resources and over 50 nations. There's lots of opportunities there for us. That's not a market we should leave untapped in any way, shape, or form. There's We should not be ignoring Africa at all, and so far we kind of have when it comes on this tour of the world. Now, of course, again, strategically, if you're first going to where the big population centers are and where the sovereign wealth funds are, okay, that's not going to lead you directly to Africa, but it should not be a footnote. And it would appear that people in Africa um, have been becoming more vocal about saying out loud to Canadian officials, "What about us? We would like to get some carny time too. If you could put that on the schedule, that would be really nice." So even there, it looks like there are some opportunities for us. So yeah, we had the whole Mercosur thing, uh, and then Kits and Cubs. There were some announcements this week, as I mentioned, that were rather interesting for us. Uh, One of them was an announcement. Uh, um, it was a lithium company. I might have to move to my cell phone for these ones, Kits and Cubs, because I believe I brought those ones up there instead of on the main computer. So I just want to make sure that I have everything here. Um, One of the things that came up yesterday. Oh yeah, that was another one. Trump and the pipeline. We'll have to look at that as well. in there. There was a project. I'm just going to try to find it here. I'm so sorry, kits and cubs. Um, has to do, like I said, with lithium. Oh, darn. I wish I could remember. I just saw it in passing, uh, and I made a note of it very quickly because I wanted to be sure that I was able to note it and bring it to you. Okay, can't seem to find that one right now, but I will find it. There is, with regard to auto manufacturing, however, stumbled upon this one on the list that I wanted to bring to you. Uh, General Motors announced on April 29th that it was investing $691 million in the St. Catharines engine plant. General Motors says it will spend $691 million on its St. Catharines propulsion plant to support production of its latest V8 engines for full-size trucks and sports utility vehicles, or SUVs. The automaker said in a statement Wednesday that the St. Catharines plant will be the third location to produce the sixth generation of the engine. Production on that model will work along with the Tonawanda propulsion plant in Buffalo, New York, and Flint engine operations in Flint, Michigan. The St. Catharines investment is part of General Motors Canada's broad manufacturing commitment, including $343 million investment in a plant in Oshawa. Originally, $280 million was announced in June 2023, with an additional $63 million pledged earlier in February. GM President Jack Uppel says in a news release that the investment confirms St. Catharines' role as one of its core vehicle programs for years to come. The automaker has also been investing in its plant in Oshawa, Ontario, that produces pickup trucks, though the company also moved the plant from three shifts to two at January. I'm just trying to find you guys here, kits and cubs, making sure that the screen's good. Good. GM's Cami assembly plant in Ingersoll, Ontario, is sitting idle after it ended production of its electric delivery van last year. So yeah, there we go. An extra $691 million to the GM plant. That is always a good investment, particularly or good news for investment, because as we are hearing here, the United States is trying to decimate our auto industry. This is the article about the lithium that I was looking for before. This is from Brianna Charlebois from the Canadian Press. It says that North America's first electrochemical lithium refining facility has opened in BC. Has opened. This is now operational. Nestled in a series of unassuming industrial buildings in Delta, British Columbia, among companies specializing in plumbing supplies, ladders, and fitness equipment, sits North America's first electrochemical lithium refining facility. It's an unlikely location for Canada to challenge China's hegemonic control of the refining of lithium, a critical mineral whose supply chains have emerged as a key concern from the White House to Ottawa and beyond. Mangrove Lithium CEO and founder Sad Data joked that the facility is like a quote, clown building as he conducted a private tour. Quote, it just keeps going, he said over the noise of machinery as he pointed to areas of the facility, including the company's research development lab. The company held an official ribbon cutting ceremony Thursday, but Dara said it had been a long journey to get to this point. He said the idea began as a one-man operation and his own thesis project in 2013, which he spun into a company in 2018 and has been working to commercialize the technology ever since. There are now about 75 employees at the facility, Dara said. We've been working on the design and construction of this first of a kind plant where we've taken the work that we've done from our piloting operations and converted those into a fully operational facility, Dara said. We anticipate production of the first natural grade materials over the summer and into the fall, and really getting to a point where the technology is fully commercialized. So, yeah, Dara says about 75% of the world's lithium is mined in South America and Australia, and about 75% of it is refined in China, including most of the lithium extracted in Canada. And that's one of the reasons why these Mercosur deals are going to become very important, because just like we have trade with the monolith, the United States, that every now and then decides to puff up his chest and make life difficult for us, the Mercosur nation's number one trading partner is not the United States, even though they are in the Americas. It is China, and China is also a monolithic nation that every now and then puffs its chest. So they Just as we want to diversify away from the United States, the Mercosur bloc wants to diversify away from China. Projects like this help. Quote, the lithium market is 6 segments. There's mining, refining, active materials, battery assembly, EV assembly, and then recycling. He said, noting China has, quote, all 6 segments. China began investing about 15 years ago, he said, which is why it is so far ahead. While Canada produces lithium, it does not have EV assembly, active materials, or recycling, Dara said. We're trying to do that, but it will take some time, he said. But he said, with the refinery coming online, Canada is starting to develop a lithium supply chain that has been missing. Jeff McCarney, Associate Professor of Environment and Development in the School of International Development and Global Studies at the University of Ottawa, agreed. Quote, he said, one of the core challenges in critical mineral production needed for energy transition, including lithium, is that China tends to control the market. Quote, but more than on the production side, they really control the refining capacity, he said. So, quote, you have a real challenge of supply bottlenecks if China ever decided to restrict supply, which we saw them threaten to do last fall in response to Trump's tariffs when they threatened to bring in export controls in October, including lithium products, EV batteries, things like that. McCartney, who's also the executive director of research at Smart Prosperity Institute, says China ultimately backed off, but it shows how global unrest poses a, quote, real concern for lithium that is currently being produced in eastern Canada. Quote, it has to be refined, exported effectively to China or somebody else who refined and then brought back domestically. So we have a real constraint even if we are able to increase our mining of lithium ourselves. McCartney said that in that context, the opening of the plant is a big deal because it increases Canada's resiliency. Quote, it's a first drop in the bucket, but it's important in that regard to demonstrate that we do have technologies. We are making the investments and we can start to bring this kind of thing online in Canada to secure our own transition. The largest global use of lithium, accounting for 87% of total demand, is the manufacturing of rechargeable batteries for electronics, electric vehicles, and grid storage, a federal government website says. Mangrove's Delta facility, Dara said, has the capacity to produce enough battery-grade lithium for about 25,000 electric vehicles per year. It uses the company's proprietary electrochemical refining technology to convert extracted lithium into battery-grade material. Dara explains it's a more sustainable way of refining lithium compared with traditional practices done in places like China, which he said were chemical invasive. For every ton of material, they can often produce 2.5 tons of waste byproduct, he said in an interview with the Canadian Press on Wednesday. And that's why processes, uh, for example, for recycling, like the one that my beaver sweetie invented, that have zero liquid and solid waste, there's a little bit of gas and gaseous waste, but have zero liquid and solid waste, are going to be the way of the future. Because if you have to create the product, but then you also have to pay to dispose of the waste, your product becomes much less competitive. Electrochemistry, said, uses electricity to do the same things that chemicals would do, and this allows us to eliminate the chemicals, and it allows us and allows us to eliminate the wastes, and essentially it creates a cost-competitive solution that's also very sustainable. He said the company's goal is not only to create a new standard in lithium processing and refining, but to develop a supply chain option outside of China that is cost competitive. BC's Job and Economic Growth Ministry said in a statement that the new facility puts BC at the forefront of clean technology while helping reduce reliance on foreign refining. The province provided $3 million in support to Mangrove Lithium. Associate Minister of National Defense Jill McKnight said in a statement that the opening marks a opening, quote, marks a turning point for Canada's critical minerals value chain. This project strengthens our energy security, supports good Canadian jobs, and advances a made in Canada battery supply chain that will power the clean economy and deliver lasting benefits for Canadians. Mangrove has also announced plans for a facility in eastern Canada that would expand the country's lithium supply. That facility, it said, would be able to supply 500,000 electric vehicles annually. McCartney said the Canadian plants will curb the country's vulnerability to market volatility, but they also highlights concerns about where Canada will source the lithium. Quote, that raises a lot of questions about new mining approvals, sourcing of new mines. Are we doing that properly? Working with Indigenous rights and title, all those sorts of things. That's not what this plant's doing, but they'll need a raw source from somewhere, he said. He noted there's likely some capacity to restart previously existing mines, but it said it usually takes about 10 to 18 years to open new mines. And hopefully that will be shorter coming soon. So we have that. So that's probably in a fix well with our project or the Prime Minister's initiative to create what's called the Critical Minerals Production Alliance. That's the group I was telling you about that would act as an alternative to China, especially when it comes to refining. This work started in June 2025 at the G7 Leaders Summit in Kananaskis. One of the first things that the Prime Minister did. Um, uh, when Canada put that idea on the table and invited the other nations to join. So this is a Canadian-led initiative that works with trusted international partners to foster the development of secure, resilient critical mineral supply chains and to counter market concentration and manipulation. Represented by envoys from each G7 country, the alliance works to accelerate the development of projects that ensure secure supply for advanced manufacturing and defense, reduce vulnerabilities, and counter supply chain concentration. By leveraging sovereign tools and fostering high standard partnerships, the alliance will mobilize capital, accelerate project development, and promote innovation, economic growth, and shared prosperity across G7 and international partner nations. And this probably dovetails very well with our adherence to the SAFE accession to the SAFE program in the not the United States. Jeez, in Europe. That was that big program that the Prime Minister announced um, earlier on that would give us access to a huge amount of investment potential in the European market. SAFE is Security Action for Europe, and it was a $150 billion euro financial instrument launched to boost defense readiness, providing low interest loans for joint procurement or military equipment. It supports EU member states, Ukraine, and partners like Canada with rearmament efforts. And then there was uh, another financing mechanism that went to support that. And Canada is also participating in that as well. So that's another big deal. And you can see where if there's going to be um, advanced use or increased use of critical minerals when it comes to defense, then projects like this, where you can not only source but refine in a nation where things are considered safe. Uh, no pun intended here, uh, and secure, that this would be a very significant advantage for the nation. Um, so yeah, this is part of that. This lithium refining capacity in British Columbia. Then in February, this may have passed under the radar, but Trans Mountain decided it was going to proceed with the first of three expansions of the oil pipeline. So, Trans Mountain, this is according to Kyle Bax of CBC. Trans Mountain is moving ahead with its first project to pump more oil through its pipeline system between Alberta and British Columbia. The Crown Corporation applied to the Canadian Energy Regulator this week to use drag reducing agents, DRAs, with the goal of moving up to 10% more oil. The project would cost $9 million and construction is expected to begin this August, according to documents submitted to the regulator. The project could be operational by January 2027. The original Trans Mountain pipeline system was built in the 1950s, while the $64 billion expansion project began transporting oil from Edmonton to the Vancouver area in May 2024. The Crown Corporation had planned to only begin looking at possible increases to the pipeline later this decade, but the timeline was sped up as oil production in Alberta continues to climb and existing export pipelines are expected to reach capacity in the coming years. The DRA project will not result in incremental vessel traffic at the Westridge Marine Terminal beyond what was assessed during the reconsideration process for the Trans Mountain expansion project, said Trans Mountain in the documents. Trans Mountain is considering a few other projects to transport more oil through its pipelines, such as constructing more pumping stations, which could move an additional 360,000 barrels per day within the next 5 years. The Twin Pipeline can currently transport 890,000 barrels per day between Alberta and the west coast of British Columbia. Drag reducing agents are chemicals that reduce friction within the pipeline and would have a relatively low price tag compared to other proposed improvements to the pipeline system. A handful of proposed expansions to major pipelines, including Trans Mountain, could noticeably increase the amount of oil that can be exported out of Western Canada. So, another bigger project. um, then we also uh, got the announcement, and this there was no talk about it that I could detect beforehand. This one seems to have been kept under wraps. But this week, we found out, according to the government of Canada, that there has been some progress towards the establishment of a defense security and resilience bank, an international defense security and resilience bank that was looking for a place for its headquarters to land. Government of Canada says, in an increasingly uncertain and divided world, Canada is stepping up to lead with allies and partners the establishment of the Defense Security and Resilience Bank, the DSRB. Multilateral negotiations in Montreal on the DSRB's charter have concluded, an important first step to set up the new institution. The DSRB will provide long-term, low-cost financing for defense, security, and resilience initiatives across supply chains, helping small and medium-sized enterprises and member governments to address critical financing gaps. Together, we have recognized the urgency of crafting a new multilateral institution that will leverage shared resources to support more growth of our industries that can be achieved individually. This will support member nations to be ready and able to meet today's defense challenges with speed and resilience. Participating countries unanimously supported that once ratified, Canada, which hosted the negotiations, will serve as the host country for the DSRB's future headquarters. Again, let me repeat, kits and cubs, that Canada's international reputation, particularly given the leadership that we have at the moment, is so strong, so recognized, so trusted, so respected, that participating countries to establish a international defense, security, and resilience bank unanimously, again, unanimously supported that Canada would serve as the host country for the headquarters. The Honorable François-Philippe Champagne, Minister of Finance and National Revenue, along with the Honorable David McGuinty, Minister of National Defense, and the Honorable Anita Anand, Minister of Foreign Affairs, appreciated this decision and recognized that much work remains ahead to establish the DSRB. They reaffirmed Canada's commitment to work together with partners on the next critical phase to make the shared vision a reality. And to Pierre Poliev, if you happen to be watching this, which you're probably not, and if you are, you're hate watching it, but does that count as results yet? You happy now? Oh man. Canada has a strong foundation in finance, defense, aerospace, and advanced manufacturing, alongside a dynamic innovation ecosystem enhanced by the measures outlined in the government's recent defense industrial strategy, and we are well positioned to support collaboration across borders and industries. Budget's 2025 Historic Defense Plan, including more than $80 billion in investments alongside Canada's newly unveiled defense industrial strategy, underscore the seriousness with which the Government of Canada is advancing its rearmament efforts and reinforces Canada's role as a trusted partner in collective defense and security. So there you go. Isabelle Hudon, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Canada's Business Development Bank, is Canada's lead negotiator for establishing the DSRB. For those who don't know, the BDC is the Canadian fund or institution that helps us small and medium businesses to grow. Canada achieves NATO's 2% GDP spending target this fiscal year and is on a pathway to meet NATO's defense investment pledge of spending 5% of GDP on defense by 2035. In February of this year, the Minister of National Defense and the Minister of Finance and National Revenue had met with Canada's leading financial institutions for a defense financing roundtable and indicated that the government is publicly backing the DSRB initiative. And then the announcement of the Canada's Defense Industrial Strategy was 15 days after that, so we're kind of seeing after the fact how all the pieces were linking together all along, especially with the SAFE program that we've signed on to beforehand. According to let's take a look at this. This is a source we don't typically go to because we don't really have very much opportunity. But this is investment executives, Jonathan Gott. Canada has been selected to host a new multinational defense bank, which will provide, quote, quote, long-term low-cost financing for defense security and resilience initiatives across supply chains, the federal government has announced. The decision came after multinational negotiations concluded in Montreal on Wednesday, the Department of Finance said in a release. The so-called Defense Security and Resilience Bank, or DSRB, will provide financing for defense security and infrastructure projects to NATO members and their allies. Once it's established, governments will be able to access financing and procurement support while private funding is protected by a credit guarantee program. Earlier this year, all of Canada's big six banks signed on to join the DSRB. Major global banks, including JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, Commerce Bank, and ING Group, also support the creation of a new bank. Commercial banks will lend to defense firms at lower interest rates than they might otherwise charge because the loans would be backed by defense-backed guarantees. These low-interest loans to national governments will ease borrowing costs while increasing private investment in industrial capacity for weapons and infrastructure. It's not yet clear which Canadian city will host the DSRB because let the games begin. Vancouver, Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal are among the cities campaigning to host the bank's headquarters and the estimated 3,500 jobs it would bring. And while I was listening to the news reports, you had people from Montreal stating that Montreal would be the best place to host it because it has an aeronautics industry that is well known. It has the Canadian Space Agency is in the area and has many defense contractors that are there as well. And of course, is the headquarters of several multilateral organizations. I believe the World Anti-Doping Agency was established there. I'm not sure if it's still there, if they were moving it. I heard that there was some plans to move it. And of course, the International Civil Aviation Organization, one of the several UN member agencies or sub-agencies like UNESCO and UNICEF and all of that. ICAO is one of them, and that is also headquartered in Montreal. Doug Ford, of course, forgetting that Ottawa exists, starts making the case for Toronto, of course, because it's the financial capital. So why shouldn't it be bringing in another bank? But BC was out there too. Officials in BC, including the premier, were stating that Vancouver would probably be the best site for it because of its geographic location, making it perfect to be able to deal with going east as well as west. Okay. Just closer to Asian markets rather than someplace in central Canada, thus maybe putting us in a better position to do international business. And in all of those comments that I saw in the news, not one person spoke up for Ottawa. Nobody asked anyone of the four cities competing to be the headquarters site why Ottawa would be a good one. Nobody spoke to that. Ottawa always gets the short shrift, man. When it comes to that, when it comes to headquarters and hosting big international sporting events. Commonwealth Games, sure. Why not Ottawa? Well, no, maybe Hamilton or Victoria instead. Why not Ottawa? It's the capital. Oh, by the way, speaking of Commonwealth Games, when I saw Devin at that event here in Kingston to promote the Grand Slam of Curling Tour, yeah, he announced that one of his next assignments was going to be the Commonwealth Games and that he was very excited about it. So we're looking forward to seeing him there as well and cheering on Team Canada there as well. Now, kids and cubs, if you think that's it, wait, there's more. Oh, yes, there's more. um, let's see. What else was there more? There's this is the one. I know I'm forgetting a big one. That's so terrible. Okay, I announced the bank. The defense investment. I'm missing one. I know I'm missing one. Okay. But this one is another one that popped out of the blue. The man south of us who has told us to our face many times that we have absolutely nothing that he needs. according to Kyle Bax from CBC yesterday. US President Donald Trump on Thursday signed an order authorizing a proposed project to transport Canadian oil across the border as part of an effort to revive parts of the cancelled Keystone XL pipeline. South Bow, the Canadian pipeline company behind the cancelled Keystone XL pipeline, is partnering with US company Bridger Pipeline on the proposed project. South Bow is considering reviving some of the already built line in Alberta and Saskatchewan. Bridger Pipeline is pursuing construction of a potential 1,038-kilometer pipeline beginning near the US Canada border in Phillips County, Montana, and transiting to Guernsey, Wyoming. As Trump signed the order, White House Staff Secretary Will Sharf told the president this is a transporter pipeline similar to the old Keystone XL pipeline. Trump responded, "A lot of jobs, too. A lot of jobs. Okay, very good." The pipeline could increase Canada's crude exports to the US by more than 12% if it goes ahead. I thought we were trying to diversify. But anyway, money's money. The new proposal involves a different route through the US than the previous Keystone XL project, which was canceled by former US President Joe Biden in 2021 after years of indigenous environmental opposition to the people who followed the Conservative Party and swallow everything that Pierre did. This wasn't Trudeau. This wasn't Trudeau, just so you know. However, it would use some of the previously built pipe on the Canadian side where the Keystone XL light line is already fully permitted. In 2011, about 150 kilometers of pipe were installed in Alberta. Again, in 2021, not 2011, sorry, 2021, when Justin Trudeau was Prime Minister. 150 kilometers of pipeline were installed in Alberta. Liberals never built pipelines. They never approved pipelines. Keystone XL. We actually built the pipeline to get so it could connect. And then the United States decided, nah. But we did our part. That would be Trudeau. From the Liberals, the party that Pierre Poilievre still tries to tell you every single day or every chance you get, will never, ever, 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 ever build a pipeline. Even though it seems they've built several that would never approve a pipeline. Even though I'm mentioning a few of them here, right? There's also the Xylisms project in BC. And the other day, I read an article from a BC stating a whole bunch of other projects that were soon to come online, featuring an interview with Adrian Dix at the time. Quote, Southbow continues to evaluate the Prairie Connector project, a potential expansion of its Canadian asset base that would be leveraging existing infrastructure and permitted corridors to improve market access for Canadian crude oil, Southbow spokesperson Solomia Martoui. No, that's not right. Solomia Martoyu? Oh, I like that. That's a beautiful name. Solomia Martoyu said in an email statement. The Prairie Connector project remains in early stages and is subjected to ongoing commercial, stakeholder, and rights holder discussions, regulatory processes, and evaluation, Martoyu said. Southbow was created in 2024 when former Keystone XL proponent TC Energy spun off its oil pipeline business. Quote, one reason we see it keep coming back is that there are some market realities that make a lot of sense, James Coleman, an energy law professor at the University of Minnesota, said in an interview with CBC News. There are continued increases in oil production in Canada. We are seeing right now the biggest threats to waterborne traffic of oil that we've ever seen in the world, he said. North America is uniquely well positioned to deal with the energy crisis caused by the U.S. war in Iran because of the continent's mix of heavy oil, light oil refining capacity, and natural gas, Coleman said. Still, Coleman warned there could be legal challenges to this proposal similar to the lawsuits against Keystone XL. The pipeline could transport about 550,000 barrels of Canadian crude per day to the U.S. Quote, Canada has benefited for decades from having fully integrated infrastructure tied to the United States, the largest oil and gas consuming market on the planet, Lisa Bayton, CEO of the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers, said in an email statement. Belton said the association supports, quote, any new capacity that is commercially viable and can move Canadian energy reliably. And maybe, if we do go ahead with this, maybe we don't sell the oil at a discount this time. Because what the fuck have they done to earn that courtesy lately? What have they done for us lately? Ooh, yeah. Charge them full price. State regulatory permits will still be required for the project to proceed. Quote, we are aware of the issuance of permits to bridge or pipeline. The government of Canada remains focused on strengthening Canada's position as an energy superpower, supporting North American and global energy security, and advancing the diversification of our trade partnerships, Charlotte Power, a spokesperson for Natural Resources Minister Tim Hodgson said in an emailed statement. The presidential permit comes at a time when Canada and the US are facing an ongoing trade war and will soon begin negotiations on a new North American trade agreement. Yes, sitting across that table. Oh, yes, yes, you signed that thing, that Bridger thing. Oh, how lovely. Yes, we already have our pipe installed. Yeah, it's been there for quite a while, actually. Yeah. If you want us to turn on that tap and have some oil flowing, maybe you would like to get rid of some of those steel and aluminium tariffs. Yeah, maybe. Just saying. Um, Last October, Prime Minister Mark Carney floated the idea of Keystone XL to Trump during a meeting at the White House. That was around the time just before Doug Ford put out that ad that scuttled the deal that we were supposed to we were working on, that everybody seems to be confirming did exist for real. During the construction of the Canadian leg of the Keystone XL pipeline, about 1,000 workers were based in the town of Oyen, located 300 kilometers east of Calgary. The 1,897-kilometer Keystone XL pipeline was first announced in 2005 and designed to carry 830,000 barrels of crude a day from Hardisty, Alberta to Nebraska. It would then connect with the original Keystone pipeline, which runs to the U.S. Gulf Coast refineries. So this was announced in 2005, 1 year before Stephen Harper became prime minister. He was prime minister for 10 years. But the pipe was built in 2021 under Trudeau. But the Conservatives are really the party that you want to vote for if you want to get oil in a pipeline, particularly the Tidewater. Call the Conservatives. They'll get it done for you. In 2024, TC Energy lost its bid to recoup $15 billion US from the US government after claiming it was treated unfairly and inequitably. Ah, yep. Well, that's what happens when you deal with the United States. You never win with them. Almost. Jeez. So yeah, we have nothing that the United States needs, but they're signing on to another pipeline to get more of our oil after Trump goes into Iran and fucks up royally. How do you like us now? Ooh, I see some talk in the chat about a DamFam playlist. Ooh, I like that. I like that idea a lot. Maybe I'm missing still a few. That is possible. That is possible. But that's a lot of stuff going on. That's a lot of investment. That's a lot of economic activity. And of course, in all of that going on, we have that big summit coming in September, where the world's high rollers are going to care and hopefully make some pledges. And it seems that there's another summit that the prime minister might be thinking of announcing. This one specifically for a green fund, and that will be coming soon as well. So that could be definitely interesting. Over the past little bit, oh yes, there was one more. I knew I had it. I had one more. I know what it is too. Over the past little bit, the prime minister has had a few interesting conversations, and one of the ones that take place, kids and cubs, was with the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum. That happened on the 24th. And the readout of that conversation is today, the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, spoke with President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum. Prime Minister Carney thanked President Sheinbaum for Mexico's support and cooperation following the tragic death of a Canadian citizen. And I do not know how to pronounce that site. Teotihuacan? Teotihuacan site near Mexico City earlier this week. The Prime Minister and the President highlighted the results of a successful Team Canada trade mission to Mexico earlier this year that resulted in over 20 new commercial partnerships and agreements. Prime Minister Carney welcomed Mexico's upcoming trade mission to Canada, led by Mexico's Secretary of Economy, Marcelo Ebrard. Building on this progress, the leaders discussed opportunities to expand collaboration in strategic areas such as critical minerals, clean technologies, energy, and advanced manufacturing. To that end, they welcomed the signing of a memorandum of understanding on industrial health, security, and biomanufacturing to strengthen pharmaceutical supply chain resilience. The leaders discussed the upcoming review of the Canada-United States-Mexico Agreement. They agreed to work in close coordination to address shared economic priorities and challenges, Trump, and deliver greater certainty, security, and prosperity for their peoples. The Prime Minister and the President also highlighted progress being made through the Canada-Mexico Action Plan, including to support increased collaboration on maritime corridors, cross-border trade, and innovation and technology. The leaders discussed regional issues, including the humanitarian situation in Cuba. They exchanged views on ongoing efforts to support the Cuban people, including through coordination with international partners. The Prime Minister and the President look forward to the 2026 FIFA World Cup this summer, the first World Cup co-hosted by three countries, Canada, Mexico, and the US. It's looking like a more and more like a terrible idea with each passing day, which is projected to contribute $2 billion to the Canadian economy. Prime Minister Carney and President Sheinbaum agreed to remain in close contact. Prime Minister also had some other conversations of late that could be somewhat significant. The Prime Minister had an opportunity to speak with the Prime Minister-elect of Hungary, Peter Magyar, big beacon for those of us who are microdosing hope with regard to this maybe being the end of this, the beginning of the end of this current wave of flirtation with the right on the global scene. But it said here, this was on April 20th. Today, the Prime Minister Mark Carney spoke with the Prime Minister-elect of Hungary, Peter Magyar. Prime Minister Carney congratulated Prime Minister-elect Magyar on his decisive election victory. As NATO allies, commercial partners, and with over 320,000 Canadians of Hungarian heritage, the Prime Minister underscored the strength and immense potential of the Canada-Hungary relationship. They discussed expanding partnerships in trade, commerce, and energy as Canada deepens its relationship with the European Union. The Prime Ministers emphasized closer collaboration on security and defense, including in defense procurement through the European Union's Security Action for Europe initiative, or SAFE, as we mentioned earlier. The leaders discussed the importance of achieving a just and lasting peace in Ukraine, and of course, the familiar ending sentence. Prime Minister Carney and Prime Minister-elect Magyar agreed to remain in close contact. So the phone didn't end up, the conversation didn't end, well, don't call me anymore. I'm not talking to you. Man. He also participated in a call with the Prime Minister of Luxembourg, Luc Frieden. Luxembourg, a tiny country, you wouldn't think that we would have much to discuss, but it seems that they underscored the growing bilateral partnership between Canada and Luxembourg across trade, commerce, technology, and defense, identifying opportunities to deepen trade and investments in aerospace and satellite communications, where Canada and Luxembourg have natural complementary capabilities. Did you know that? I didn't know that. I'm learning that right now. And of course, here they also discussed. See, we would have had a hint about the DSRB bank, the DSR bank, from this conversation. The leaders discussed progress to establish the DSR bank, a new multilateral institution that will mobilize private capital to scale up defense industries at speed and bolster collective security. With multi-year low-cost financing, the DSR bank will enable the defense sector to build bigger and faster and support Canadian workers and businesses. Prime Minister Carney thanked Prime Minister Frieden for his close partnership in this mission. They emphasized progress underway to achieve a just and lasting peace in Ukraine and the imperative for de-escalation in the Middle East. And everybody, all together, Prime Minister Carney and Prime Minister Frieden agreed to remain in close contact. Yes, you got it. Why? We're being silly. We're being silly. We're playing. He spoke to the president of Argentina, Javier Milei, yesterday. For some reason, this readout is a little sparse. more sparse. Prime Minister and President welcomed progress on negotiations towards a free trade agreement between Canada and Mercosur, a trade bloc collectively representing the world's fifth largest economy, with a combined GDP of more than 4 trillion. Oh, this now it says 4 trillion. The previous article said three. The Prime Minister underscored Canada's role as leading investor in Argentina's mining sector. I did not know we were the leading investor in Argentina's mining sector. And the opportunities to further expand this partnership across trade, critical minerals, energy, and investment. The leaders discussed the bilateral defense industrial relationship and the potential for greater Canadian exports. They welcomed Argentina's upcoming participation in Operation Nanook in Canada's north. Oh, that's interesting. The leaders look forward to the FIFA World Cup, which begins next month and will be hosted by Canada. They agreed to, you got it, remain in contact. Yeah. And also spoke with Crown Prince and Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia, His Royal Highness Mohammed bin Salman. They discussed the evolving situation in the Middle East. Prime Minister condemned the strikes carried out by the Iranian regime on Saudi Arabia. He thanked His Royal Highness for Saudi Arabia's leadership in urging restraint and de-escalation in the region. The Prime Minister thanked Saudi Arabia for their efforts during the crisis, including safely transporting more than 300 Canadians affected by the conflict. The Prime Minister and the Crown Prince discussed deepening the Canada-Saudi Arabia partnership in energy, agri-food, critical minerals, defense, and aerospace. The leaders welcomed the recent ministerial visits as growing momentum to increase trade and investment. Prime Minister Carney thanked His Royal Highness for the invitation to visit Saudi Arabia and looks forward to visiting in the future. Do not stay in 7-star hotels and ride on the Saudi plane, and definitely do not accept a golden kitty. And of course, kids and cubs, the leaders agreed to remain in close contact. Yes. So, Prime Minister talking to a lot of people here. The other two bits of news that I wanted to mention here. First is that you know that the goal of the federal government moment is to try to draw $1 billion, not a billion, $1 trillion of investment into Canada for over the next while. Royal Bank of Canada made two announcements that are rather interesting. The first of them is that the bank itself plans to put $1 billion into the mix to help Canadian companies scale up. Come on, computer. There you go. This is according to Stephanie Marotta, the banking reporter at the Globe and Mail. The Royal Bank of Canada's Chief Executive Officer Dave McKay said the lender plans to deploy up to $1 billion in coming years to bolster investments in Canadian companies as the country attempts to redraw trade routes. To finance Canada's major projects, the country will need $1.8 trillion in capital investment over the next year, Mr. McKay said at RBC's annual meetings in Toronto on Thursday. Canada's largest bank intends to launch a growth fund and expand its financing of emerging sectors deemed critical for economic growth. The vast majority of this capital must come from the private sector. Government simply cannot and should not fund it alone, Mr. McKay said. We're planning to bring more of our lending, underwriting, and advisory services to help close Canada's funding gap and support the major projects that will build the country's future. But that future is only possible if Canadian innovators and their ideas stay in Canada. The bank expects to hire in key roles and expand products and services in sectors considered of national importance, including infrastructure and finance capabilities, including focusing on partnerships in the North and with Indigenous groups, as well as defense companies and Canadian businesses looking to expand globally. And when they're talking about focusing on partnerships in the North and with Indigenous groups, one announcement that I'm hoping is coming relatively soon from the federal government is maybe an announcement of a fund to cover the infrastructure gap with regard to First Nations. Because the Assembly of First Nations estimates that there is the opportunity for about $350 billion of investments in order to bring on-reserve housing, clean water, schools, and roads to Canadian standards by 2030. There are currently about $4.8 billion in assets in poor condition that are causing overcrowding, lack of safe drinking water, and limited connectivity. So if there was a move on that, that would definitely be welcome. And that's one part of the puzzle that still appears to be missing so far. Quote, across the globe, countries are building competitive advantages and diversifying their economies by making investments in infrastructure, streamlining regulations, and finding new ways to attract capital, Mr. McKay said. In a world defined by competition, Canada can't rely on past advantages or legacy strengths alone. To succeed, the country must make deliberate long term choices and investments. And uh, so that the Royal Bank itself is willing to put up some money itself is very interesting. But the part in that was interesting is the part where it was talking about Canada needs to invest $1.8 trillion over the next decade. The Prime Minister was looking for $1 trillion. It would seem that, according to the Bank of Canada, that there are enough projects on the books to be able to bring in almost double that if we really went for it. This is according to Naimul Karim, the Financial Post, and I will assume before I start that the Financial Post is going to do some weird stuff with pop-ups on this article too, as it has been doing all day long so far. So I will give it a second to adjust itself, and there it is. It says here, for every dollar that flowed into Canada between 2015 and 2024, $2 left the country, with the net outflow of $1 trillion being the most significant capital exodus in modern Canadian history, according to a new study by the country's biggest bank. Canadian investment abroad isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it took place when the country was, quote, starved for capital domestically, said Jordan Brennan, managing director at RBC Thought Leadership, Royal Bank of Canada's Research and Analysis Division. Quote, the imbalance was what was striking, he said. We're exporting capital at scale at the same time that Canada is ranking dead last in the G7 when it comes to capital investment. Our investment in machinery, equipment, and IP is half the United States' level. But foreign direct investment in Canada hit nearly $100 billion last year, the highest since 2015, and the first time in a decade when inflows exceeded outflows. Canada, that's very good. There's another result, Pierre. Canada has been announcing measures to speed up major energy-related projects with an aim to reduce its reliance on the US. Quote, Canada is back on the radar of global investors and companies looking to rebalance their portfolios amid global uncertainty, the RBC expert said, adding that the federal government needs, quote, to capitalize on this moment with an eye on leading the G7, quote, in economic growth and industrial dynamism. And wouldn't you know it, we have a major summit coming in September to Toronto, where the Prime Minister of Canada, on prime ministerial letterhead, using his own personal legitimacy and credibility acquired as a global banking rock star, invited 100 of the most important CEOs and sovereign wealth fund managers to come to Canada to write checks that are not 1 million or 2 billion, but 100, 500, and million and 1 billion for our projects. And according to this, couldn't be a better time to do it. Canada needs to capitalize on this moment. Well, it seems we took the advice. Pierre Poilievre, of course, has a problem with this conference. Another get-together where people are going to talk, blah, 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 and this kind of stuff, which is the first time in my life I've ever heard a conservative be mad that there was going to be a global finance summit happening somewhere in the world, particularly in Canada. It's almost like the conservatives are anti-business now. Jeez. In order to do that, Canada needs to make $1.8 trillion in investments over the coming decade to boost 6 sectors: oil and gas, metals and minerals, electricity, agriculture, defense and space. RBC said investing $705 billion in the oil and gas sector to help build new oil pipelines and LNG terminals would, quote, elevate Canada to energy superpower status. It would also foster large-scale carbon capture and sequestration to reduce emissions. It also said an investment of $670 billion in electricity systems would boost the energy Canada receives from sources such as wind and nuclear. Quote, the coming decades will test every part of the grid, the report said. Electrification of vehicles, buildings, industry, and data centers means demand could double by 2050. To keep the grid reliable and affordable, Canada must massively expand and modernize a system that was built more than half a century ago. RBC said Canada doesn't lack capital for these investments, but that the capital doesn't flow to where it is needed at the speed or scale required. The country is awash in savings, Brennan said. We have trillions of dollars sitting just in those Maple 8 pension plans. But large investors have thresholds that need to be met for them to deploy the capital. And Canada has, quote, too few of those types of projects and too few of those companies that are of sufficient scale to attract that capital. Well, we may have too few of the companies, but we do not have, or at least will not very soon, too few of those projects. There are lots of mid-sized companies in Canada that need that extra leg of capital to grow and reach scale, he said, and this mismatch needs to be addressed. But making these large-scale changes and taking advantage of the renewed interest in Canada won't be easy, RBC said, since Canada isn't the only country looking to build and the global competition for capital is intense. But Brennan remains cautiously optimistic and hopes the report helps, quote, nudge Canada in the right direction. Quote, we have missed the last 10 years, he said. We missed that wave of investment, and so it's really on us now to change the playbook. So, aiming for 1 trillion, but there's 1.8 trillion out there. What are the odds that the Prime Minister is going to surpass expectations if he gets to see the whole plan through? I'd say the odds are pretty good. The last one that I have for you, kits and cubs, this is one that is so brand spanking new that I only heard of it for the first time today, and I heard about it through a U.S. source that I contact, that I follow. As you know, Kits and Cubs, I'm a big fan of Belle of the Ranch or Beau of the Fifth Column, both of them, although Beau appears to be specifically on a maybe way more than temporary hiatus, as Belle has taken over for the videos itself, at least in the part of it. But Belle of the Ranch, just a couple of days ago, 2 days ago, was talking about a that could be extremely interesting for Canada and may not have broken out and made the big news yet. So here, hopefully, I need to be able to pick up the transcript of this to bring it to you, and it's easy to do by phone. Maybe a little more difficult here. Oh, no, now I got it. Yes, please show the transcript. Okay, I click on show the transcript and there is no transcript being shown. Okay, I will go back to my phone and I will get it there because I know I was able to find it there. I saw it there just this morning. Okay, this is the one here. And let's see if I can get the transcript. There it is. Wonderful. It says here, at the time of recording, it hasn't been publicly announced, but multiple outlets have confirmed that NATO Support and Procurement Agency has made a selection. Ah, interesting. You know what? I don't think we'll get dinged for this. So you know what? Maybe I should just do this because I know there are lots of fans of Belle of the Ranch, and I haven't used that much video today. So let me just put her up. But she could deliver the news herself. Would be a much smarter way to go about it, especially she's absolutely lovely and delightful. So why not give her some screen time? Here we go. This is a big announcement.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Belle again. So today, we're going to talk about Canada and Sweden beating the U.S. out of billions. First, we need a little bit of backstory and an explanation. In modern militaries, the Airborne Warning and Control System, or AWACS, is the backbone of air power. It's normally a large plane that looks like a cargo plane with a dish on top. They can track incoming aircraft, and the planes avoid many of the limitations of ground-based radar. They're important, and it's not a purchasing decision taken lightly. For more than 40 years, one company dominated the field, Boeing, and that legacy was set to continue. As recently as 2023, Boeing was set to be the manufacturer of NATO's next generation of AWACS. Boeing's E-7A wedge tail was a sure thing, but that was under Biden. That was before Trump caused a massive rift in the NATO alliance. That was before he indicated he might attack NATO allies. Then, the U.S. decided to cut Boeing's wedge tail from the spending plan in June of 2025. That was probably the last straw. It didn't help that the CEO of Saab was out there basically saying, "Y'all rushed to purchase this thing. Have you heard about our global eye? It's kind of awesome." Countries started scrapping their purchase plans for Boeing's plane. The Dutch defense minister made no secret that it was because of Trump's rhetoric and a new desire to invest in European defense industries. That's something that didn't matter as much when the U.S. was a reliable ally. At time of recording, it hasn't been publicly announced, but multiple outlets have confirmed that NATO's Support and Procurement Agency has made the selection. The Global Eye is going to be the new platform. It's basically Saab's radar and electronics thrown into a Bombardier Global. So, it's Swedish tech in a Canadian plane. Even setting aside the geopolitical implications of the U.S. losing out as the provider, we're not talking about a small chunk of change the U.S. lost out on because of Trump's rhetoric and trade policies. We're talking about more than $600 million per unit. Trump cost the U.S. billions. Just the first run looks to be close to $6 billion, and that's just for the planes. That doesn't include all of the additional money for sustainment, training, and everything else. This is going to be a huge boost to both Canadian and European defense contractors. It's taking the rhetoric about building out the defense industries there and making it concrete. Defense contractors there now know, not think, know, they can get the big contracts. You don't need the advanced sensors on an AWACS to see there's going to be more of this incoming. I'm sure this won't bother Trump at all right before Canada and the U.S. start talking about trade deals again. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.
Kids and cubs, that is some rather big news, isn't it? The Global Eye and the Bombardier plane. No more Boeing. No Boeing. Sweetest technology. Saab. Is there something else we got going on with Saab? Oh yeah, maybe those Grippins as well. Gee, we might be doing a lot of business with Sweden all of a sudden. So not announced yet, but you will be the first to know when you hear if that contract comes down. The Global Eye system in Bombardier planes. That's a contract that should have gone to the United States that we got instead. It's starting to happen, kids and cubs. Slowly but surely, if you are paying attention, it is starting to happen. You can see certain elements of the plan coming together. We are doing as best as one could expect in a situation like this. I saw some uh, comments from Kid Linda specifically worrying about the CPP premiums. I mentioned it on the show, but I don't know if you had a chance to see it. According to Peter Armstrong, who's the business analyst or the head business reporter at CBC, he says that when he looks at these documents, a lot of people like to look at it from the front. He likes to look at the back and start with the annexes and look at uh, the economic assumptions that are being used here. And when it comes to the CPP, it seems that the fund is bringing it has is overfunded by 69 basis points in order to hold on. Sorry, something just started here at this end, and I can't gotta get it to stop. There you go. Um, 69 basis points over what is needed to remain solvent. Uh, the cut that they've done represents 49 basis points or something, or 40 basis points. So the other 29 basis points. So even with the cut, the premiums that are being paid in are still higher now. Than is needed for it to be solvent. So there probably won't be any issues with people having to make different financial plans for the future because the payments will be smaller. That does not seem to be the case. When they decided to make this cut, they cut it and then left plenty of margin. So hopefully that can alleviate some concerns there. What's a basis point? That's a good question, actually. A basis point, um, for example, when the Bank of Canada cuts or raises the bank rate. So let's say the bank rate goes from 2.5% to 2.5%. They say it's gone down 25 basis points. So a basis point is basically a unit of measure equal to 1/100th of 1 percentage point or 0.01%. So it's used typically it says here in finance to express small changes in interest rates, bond yields, or financial percentages with 100 basis points equaling 1 full percent. So 1 basis point, 1/100th of a full percent. So there you go. Needed to get a little bit. I knew what it was, but to get the specific wording, to not to lead you, because if I would have just tried to explain it on my own without getting the wording, it probably would have taken me 3 minutes rather than this, which was way simpler and easier than my convoluted explanation. But yes, well, Kit Linda had it already. In the chat. See, you don't need me. You just need to talk amongst yourselves. You have all the knowledge already. Well, of course, maybe I'm still needed for my charm and my convening power. Yes, Kajillian, you were in the right ballpark. You had the right idea of what it was. Yep, good old base 10, just like metric. So there you go, kids and cubs. A lot of more of a good news show about all the investment, all the activity, all the opportunities that are available to us. How it could look 1 year in that there may not have been a lot going on because we're at the planning and setup stages, right? We set up the Defense Investment Bank, we set up the Build Canada Homes program. We're setting all these things up. You've got to bring people together. You have to do the consultations. But setting up what Pierre is calling them, he's just setting up more bureaucracies, 12 or 13 more bureaucracies. These bureaucracies, for all intents and purposes, are working. The Canada builds, not getting off to the best start, but hopefully they will be able to fix that. But the Defense Investment Agency, from reports that we've heard before with regard to the submarines, that's going well. I knew there was one more. I just said submarines and it popped out. The other one that's going well for us, CBC. CBC. I was typing CBC and I said it out loud. Oh my God, that's terrible. Wow. Weird. Okay. Just goes to show. Um, the submarines bidding process, of course, we read you an article before that said that the bids had to be in and everything was final. It seems that there was an extension given because the two countries who want our business can't seem to stop tripping over themselves to offer us more to sweeten the deal. According to Murray Brewster, South Korea's Hanwha group of companies is sweetening the pot in its bid to land Canada's multi-billion-dollar submarine program, delivering an updated pitch that would help expand this country's defense industrial base. The group has signed a memorandum of understanding with Canada's Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association, the AMPA. APMA. I think that's the group represented by Joe Volpe, if I'm not mistaken, promising to build a suite of armored vehicles in Canada if it wins the submarine build. Again, if you give us the submarine contract, we will build a suite of armored vehicles in Canada. A year ago, CBC News first reported that Hanwha Ocean and Hanwha Aerospace delivered an unsolicited bid to the federal government, proposing to sell not only submarines but also K9 mobile artillery guns and possibly armored vehicles. As part of that proposal, company officials said they could establish an armored vehicle maintenance and manufacturing facility if Canada accepted the offers. In interviews with CBC News, Hanwha executives and South Korean defense officials have emphasized that they are interested in helping Canada rebuild its defense industrial capacity. The proposed partnership with APMA announced Wednesday comes after the federal government gave both Hanwha Ocean and the German bidder TKMS extra time to refine the economics benefit portion of their bids. The deadline for updated proposals for both companies is Wednesday of this week. That would be. Also interesting, I heard on the news today, geopolitically, when we're talking about Asia, Japan, and I would assume South Korea as well in this instance, are definitely reviewing their policy when it comes to rearming and defense and all that kind of stuff because they are sensing, like we are, that the world is changing. And like we are in Canada, they're a little bit isolated up there. Russia's really close by and China's really close by, and both of them are good. And Japan's a tiny country, and South Korea is not a huge country, and they seem to be all alone there in that part of the world, just like we are all alone right above the United States at the bottom and Russia above us, right? The meat in an authoritarian sandwich, it would appear. If somebody decides to do something to us, if any of our European allies are going to help, they still have to cross a whole ocean to be able to get to us. So we feel a little alone and vulnerable. I'm sure Japan and South Korea are feeling something similar where they happen to be geographically located in the world. So no wonder they would like to that they're changing their defense posture. Industry Minister Mélanie Joly has publicly been in favor of the possibility of retooling Canadian auto plants idled by the trade war with the United States to build military-grade vehicles. Hanwha officials said the new partnership could involve not only the K9 howitzers, but also the company's Redback infantry fighting vehicles, Chunmoo Capital launch rocket systems, and remotely operated ground drones manufactured in Canada. So here we're looking at the possibility that if the United States insists on wanting to decimate our commercial car industry, then okay, maybe Canada's automotive industry no longer is about what it is we drive and park in our laneways and our garages to get from point A to point B, but a whole entirely different type of vehicle altogether. Necessity is the mother of invention. Again, if you're creative and nimble, that might be our way forward. Kids and cubs to save some type of auto industry, not making Chevys, but making Chunmoo rocket launch systems and K9 howitzers and Redback infantry fighting vehicles. Such a plant would put Hanwha in competition with General Dynamics Land Systems Canada, which for decades has had a long-term strategic relationship with the federal government. That could be tricky. The company promises the new range of vehicles will be fully produced in Canada by Canadian workers with Canadian-made parts and materials, including steel and aluminium. According to Hanwha, it could also create, quote, tens of thousands of automotive sector jobs for Canadians. Hanwha says it and APMA will work together to establish a sovereign Canadian automotive business unit that would be focused exclusively on the design and production of non-commercial industrial vehicles, including light-duty trucks and SUVs for use by the Canadian Armed Forces. Sweeten the deal. Just keep sweetening the deal. So there you go, kits and cubs. And you have all these things going on over the backdrop or on the backdrop of certain bits of news here. It would seem one of the things is that Canada is seeing a surge in applications for citizenship from Americans after Canadian law loosened requirements last December to open citizenship to anyone who can prove they have a Canadian ancestor and not just a parent. Immigration lawyers on both sides of the border say that they have been overwhelmed with clients when it comes to that. Yeah, it would seem that there are a lot of Americans who might be interested in becoming Canadians. Interesting. It says here that let's go get an article on that as well, because that was just a quick blurb that I saw. Okay, Americans, Canadian citizenship. Let's see what there's anything here. There we go. This is from Joy Malvin of CTV. Eve Grenfield, a 57-year-old immigration paralegal in Chicago, has spent years working on green cards and work visas for Canadians. Now it's her turn, she says. After working on a passion project tracing her family roots back to her Winnipeg Nana Gertrude Greenfield, Eve is now a proud Canadian thanks to a change in Canadian law. I like how people are kind to each other and less angry, she told CTV News about Canada. They let me in on the highway when I'm trying to merge. She says the move to Canada is because, quote, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump or his administration's policies. Greenfield is just one of thousands who are poring over old records and tracing back their genealogy after Canada recently changed its citizenship by descent rules. No longer a one-generation only rule, the change opens a path to a passport for anyone who can prove they have a direct Canadian grandparent or even distant Canadian ancestor. Immigration lawyer Amandeep Hayer in Vancouver says he has one client whose ancestry dates back to the Acadians, who were deported by the British in the 1700s for not swearing allegiance to the crown. Quote, I even have a client with ancestors dating back to a father of Confederation, not a big one, but an aide to one of the delegates, Hayer told CTV News. Hayer said that since the law changed, quote, we've been flooded with inquiries leading him to hire more lawyers and legal assistants. While the motivations vary, he says the most common reasons his clients seek another passport is due to, quote, cheaper tuition in Canada and the rhetoric coming out of the White House. I am hearing a lot from gay and lesbian people who don't feel safe in America. It's the biggest driving factor, that level of cruelty coming out of the administration, Hayer said. Hey, if the United States going down that road is going to contribute to Canada, making Canada even more fabulous, who am I to object? Bring to me your tired gaze. Your huddled masses of lesbians. Your transgender people yearning to break free. Send them over. Oh, God. It's going to be quite a party. Quote, we're pretty much flooded with this, he told CTV News. His American clients tell him that they're concerned about where the politics in the U.S. are going and that America's in trouble. He cites an upcoming U.S. Supreme Court case concerning transgender people and their passports. Quote, these people are terrified their government is turning against them. That's terrifying to them, and they're extremely motivated to move as quickly as possible. As for Eve, she and her husband plan to move to Canada as early as the summer with passports in hand and hopes of being busy on the other side of the border as an immigration paralegal. Canadian priorities are more aligned with mine, and I believe society should take care of its people. Am I happy to pay taxes? Absolutely. She said her Canadian grandmother would have loved to see the world. Nana never had a passport and never got to go anywhere. Burning suspects the new law and a wave of Americans could spark some backlash in Canada. Quote, my hope is once they start showing up in Canada, it would be people we would want here, not a bunch of people in monster trucks and MAGA supporters, he said. I suspect when the dust settles, this will be a good thing and Canadians will welcome their neighbors. Well, then, if we want to make sure that it isn't a bunch of people in monster trucks and MAGA supporters, well, actually, people in monster trucks, if they're not MAGA supporters, come on over. It's mostly the MAGA supporters. Yeah, so of course, Canadians, that means that you understand your assignment for the next while. It is to be in every instance that you can be, particularly if there are cameras rolling, woke as fuck. Just like be this woke care bear. And just have it put out all the time. Don't worry, that's natural MAGA repellent. They're definitely not going to come to immigrate to a country that's even more woke than they believe theirs already is. But yeah, that's going on. That's an undercurrent going on here. People are looking to leave. And of course, the people that are looking to leave often might be people that have the means to leave and the education to leave and whatnot. So, what Trump's doing down there might end up being a rather big brain gain for us. And one of the proof of that is something going on in British Columbia, because it would appear that people are arriving from the United States and settling there, particularly in the fields of medicine. According to BC government news, because they made a direct appeal for this. It says 1 year after the BC government launched a targeted campaign to recruit US trained healthcare workers, more than 400 professionals have signed on to work in BC communities. It's nearly triple the number since the previous update in September 2025. British Columbia is not only a great place to live, it's also a great place to work and grow your career, said Premier David Eby. Our public healthcare system values science, respects reproductive rights, and provides great care. We can't wait to welcome more US trained doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, and allied health providers to our amazing province. Globally, healthcare workers are in high demand, including in British Columbia. Government launched recruitment efforts to attract more healthcare professionals from the US in March 2025. The marketing campaign started in June 2025, targeting the states of Washington and Oregon, as well as select cities in California. As of January 2026, more than 400 US doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, and allied health professionals have accepted job offers within BC's public healthcare system. They include 89 doctors, 260 nurses, 42 nurse practitioners, and 23 allied health professionals. Quote, in less than a year, we've successfully recruited hundreds of US healthcare professionals who are already helping strengthen BC's public healthcare system, said Josie Osborne, Minister of Health. They include, well, anyway, again, all those names again. This is just the beginning. US health professionals are enthusiastic about the opportunity to work in BC, and we will continue welcoming them and connecting them with opportunities throughout the province. These doctors, nurse practitioners, and allied health professionals are joining hospitals and clinics in the following regions in BC. Fraser Health, 105 healthcare professionals. The Interior Health has 83, Island Health 97, North Health 31, Vancouver Coastal Health Vancouver Coastal Health and Providence Health 72, First Nations Health Authority got 4, and the Provincial Health Services Authority got 22. Wow. So there you go, kids and cubs. It says the province is seeing strong continued interest from American healthcare professionals wanting to move to BC, with more than 1,300 nurses, nurse practitioners, and doctors showing their interest by getting registered to practice in BC. Before applying for jobs in BC, many U.S. health professionals choose to start by registering with the regulatory colleges to get licensed and ensure their credentials will be recognized. So about 1,300 more, not ready to make the jump yet, but are maybe preparing the terrain. 1,038 U.S. trained nurses and nurse practitioners have registered to work in BC since the BC Colleges of Nurses and Midwives streamlined the credential recognition process for U.S. trained nurses in April 2025, up more than 8 times from the year before. In all of 2024, 127 U.S. nurses had registered and 112 were registered in 2023. From March 1st, 2025 until January 31st, 2026, more than 210 U.S. trained and certified physicians have registered in BC. This is 145% more than the same period the previous year. This is supported by a new pathway that the College of Physicians and Surgeons of BC implemented in July 2025 to make it easier for U.S. trained doctors to register in BC. The province, in collaboration with the BC Colleges of Nurses and Midwives and the College of Physicians and Surgeons of BC, has also made it easier for internationally trained health professionals to practice in BC. Actions taken include introducing a new expedited credential recognition process for U.S. trained and certified nurses, making it easier for U.S. trained and certified doctors to practice in BC without the need for further assessment, examination, or training, and removing the requirement to hold the Licentiate of Medical Council of Canada or Medical Council of Canada Qualifying Examination Part 1 for doctors trained outside of Canada and the US and who are applying for registration and licensure in BC. By welcoming more U.S. doctors, nurse practitioners, nurses, and health allied professionals, BC is building on the expertise of its healthcare workforce to strengthen public healthcare, strengthen services for people, and build healthy communities. And some of the people that have one of the persons that made the move, Dr. Ianto West, who is a psychologist who moved to Vancouver in July 2025, says, quote, "I've never had such a neighborly experience before. It's been a pretty smooth transition. I moved in July and had an invitation for our first Canadian Thanksgiving by October. I'm loving my bike commute to work too. It seemed to help that I got registered with the College of Health and Care Professionals in BC first. Once I had a job offer, the rest of the process went fast." San Buitas, the mayor of Terrace, British Columbia, said healthcare recruitment has been a challenge in the north, and we are so grateful for this program that has brought Terrace 6 American doctors and nurses. The government's efforts in streamlining the process are well appreciated by the many northern residents who now have a family doctor. We look forward to continuing to support the province in this recruitment program. So yeah, it seems that not we are getting a brain gain as a result of what is going on in the United States. Kits and cubs. Lots going on. Lots going on here. And also, since we're talking about that, according to Statistics Canada, travel to the US has declined for a 14th consecutive time, down 12.5% in February year over year. And we had already started declining before. But for those Americans that keep on trying to convince, like Scott Besant, trying to convince the American population that the reason Canadians are not coming to the United States anymore is because we have no money, overseas trips went up 6.8%. Just saying. For 2025, overseas trips were up, 6.8% more overseas trips overall. For 2025 specifically, overseas trips were up 9% and domestic tourism spending increased by 2.5%. March marked the 14th consecutive month of declines. So once you pass 12, right, now we're talking year-over-year declines, year-over-year declines. We're not going back. Canadian return trips to the United States limited 32% that month compared to March of the year before. Canada's return trips to the United. So yeah, that's a big, healthy amount of fewer trips now than we were taking beforehand, kits and cubs. Just want to go into my history because there was other stats about that that I came across this morning that were rather impressive. I think it was Todd Mathen who had done a video on those. It was indicating by how much things had gone down. And I may have, oh yeah, sorry. It was not that, it was a short, if I'm mistaken. And that's why I cannot find it because I was looking in the wrong spot. I was not looking at shorts. So let's see if I can find it here and probably not. It seems to have disappeared. So I will look for that and find the specific stats for you and bring them to you on another show. But yeah, this is absolutely a big change to what's going on. And then, of course, you have all the economic data that I won't go into now. But Bank of Canada wasn't the only one bank that kept their interest rates steady. The U.S. Fed also reduced, also announced their interest rate made their interest rate announcement on the same day as the Bank of Canada did. They also held steady, and so did the Bank of England. But of course, if we're looking at our inflation numbers are much better. Ours went up to 2.4%, in the United States is a solid 1% higher. We are doing better on our on unemployment and our employment rate, our financial position with regard to our credit rating and our the balance of our finances overall. Our macroeconomic position is better as well. Um, and we are not blowing. We haven't blown at least $25 billion over the past few 8 weeks on a war. $25 billion, a number that a lot of people are scoffing at as being way lowballed. And we did not decide to go into a war with improper planning and screw up our potential future sources of oil and aluminium and urea and sulfur and helium and everything else that we need to make chips and to fuel things and to grow things. Uh, in fact, when it comes to fertilizers and all that kind of stuff, it would seem that the United States is also um, in a really tough position uh, because the price of certain things have gone up by an incredible amount over the last little bit. When we're talking about the price of oil, that's one thing, but we are also talking about the prices of fertilizers that have skyrocketed, and then we are talking about. I'm sorry, my phone keeps on wanting to start on its own for some reason. Um, and then so I mentioned the prices of fertilizers, which have gone up an incredible amount over the past little bit. Um, and I have no idea where all my notes on that part just went, because I noticed them just this morning. I must have forgotten to press save. Ah, no, I have it. Sorry, no, I do have it. Um, so basically, we're going into this Kuzma thing where the United States keeps on saying that it has all the cards and nobody else has any other cards, right? That's the Donald Trump's position. He doesn't believe that anybody has cards. But a recent Farm Bureau survey suggested that 70% of Americans' farmers cannot afford all the fertilizer they need this year, which, of course, for them will mean lower crop yields, but the same demand, and demand is global on this one, right? Which, again, if you have the same demand or slightly growing demand and it's global, but you have lower crop yields, well, what does that mean for the price of food? It goes up. So when Pierre tells you this is all Mark Carney's fault, no, it's not. And then the price of diesel, which is used in heavy farm machinery, has also gone up from $3.57 a gallon US a year ago in April to $5.53 a gallon today. And then the trucks that are transporting the food for future processing and to the markets are also running on diesel. And then you add the fact that Trump's immigration policies are creating manpower issues. All of these things are going to increase the cost of food, right? Fertilizers, diesel, cost of manpower, um, and then just the and the shortage of fertilizers. You add those four things together. Those are four individual sources of price shocks and supply shocks that will cause the price of food to go up, especially any food that we import from the United States in particular. So we are going into this negotiation with the United States losing contracts for planes to Bombardier in Sweden. We are going there with Canada and Europe moving away their defense purchases from the United States. We are going when the United States created a war that is creating an oil shock, that's creating a fertilizer shock, that's creating a sulfur and helium shock for the production of chips. And all those things are going to have to come from someplace at some time. There is no end in sight at the moment. For the war, it seems that they both want to stop shooting at each other, but none of them want to be the first to remove the blockades. So this continues until someone cries no more first. It'll be about who can take the most pain. But in the meantime, the rest of us all suffer. Yay. With Trump wanting to build another pipeline, clearly from Canada, all of a sudden. We're in a pretty good position going to this negotiating table. And then, of course, Trump has midterms and has the entire business community of the United States. Don't you dare freaking touch that agreement. Especially now. And with Trump sending a signal to the entire world, of course, that, again, you can't deal with him at all. Because Trump, even though he signed this deal with Europe that said 15%, according to the BBC, Donald Trump is increasing the tariffs charged on cars and trucks imported from the European Union to 25% in a sharp escalation of trade tension. The US president accused the EU of not complying with our fully agreed trade deal and a post-Truth Social, but did not explain how, because he never does. I am pleased to announce that next week I will be increasing tariffs charged to the European Union for cars and trucks, Trump said on Friday. The European Commission responded, we will keep our options open to protect EU interests. The Commission said the US was adhering to its commitments, but was also seeking clarity from the US around its commitments. Because, hey, if not respecting commitments is a reason to slap a 25% tariff on things, dude, you are in violation of your CUSMA treaty with us. Left, right, and center. So clearly you don't have a problem with people who don't respect agreements. Come on, that's kind of your jam. In targeting the automotive sector, Trump has chosen a particularly sensitive target as car manufacturing makes up a significant proportion of Europe's economy. The move comes less than a year after the EU and US agreed a deal at Trump's Turnberry golf courses in Scotland, which set levies on most European goods at 15%. That marked a reprieve for the EU from the 30% tariffs Trump had threatened to impose as part of his sweeping Liberation Day tariffs. In exchange, Europe agreed to invest in the US and make changes expected to boost UX exports. So kits and cubs again, Pierre Poilievre and the conservatives, you needed to sign a deal already. You should have signed a deal. Look, Europe got a deal. Why aren't we like Europe? Well, look what happened to the European deal. Europeans made some concessions already. Those concessions are in the bank. They gave those things away already. And what did Trump do? That's why. We're not giving the fucker anything. That's why when they came back and they said that there's going to be an entry fee, the prime minister had that, like, yeah, that's not going to be happening, buddy, kind of look. Because once you make a concession, try to claw it back, even from a different administration after. Don't give the guy a thing. And if that means that he will not come to the table, well, so be it. Because as the Prime Minister said, a bad deal. Hopefully, even though hope is not a strategy, wait them out, keep on diversifying, all that kind of stuff, taking care of ours, and perhaps one day there will be another administration that will be somewhat tethered to reality. And with them, we might be able to make a deal. But we might need to resign ourselves to the fact that there may be no deal possible with the United States as it is currently being run. There may not be anything signed. However, in the following months, tensions mounted over President Trump's threats to annex Greenland and all that kind of stuff that we knew. The deal was eventually approved by the European Parliament in March, but only after a clause had been added allowing it to be suspended if the Trump administration was deemed to have, quote, undermined the objectives of the deal, discriminated against EU economic operators, threatened member states' territorial integrity, foreign and defense policies, or engaged in economic coercion. Oh, wow, look at that. Since then, talks have again stalled over a dispute about steel and aluminium. Major European economies such as Germany and France had rejected U.S. plans to adjust tariffs on a wide range of goods. In its statement, the European Commission said the EU was implementing the deal, quote, in line with standard legislative practice, keeping the U.S. administration fully informed throughout. The spokesman said, we fully remained committed to a predictable, mutually beneficial transatlantic relationship. That's not available now, unfortunately. Should the U.S. take measures inconsistent with the joint statement, we will keep our options open to protect EU interests. Asked on Friday in what way the EU had failed to apply the terms of its deal with the US, Trump did not elaborate because, like I said, conservatives never do. Just like Pierre. All your facts are wrong. How and why are my facts wrong? Nope. You're wrong. He told reporters, we have a trade deal with the European Union. They were not adhering to it, so I raised the tariffs on cars and trucks. Announcing the tariff hikes, Trump urged European car makers to shift production to the United States. It is fully understood and agreed that if they produce cars and trucks in the United States plants, there will be no tariff. His Truth Social post read. Yeah, until you get all that stuff there, and then he decides that he's going to charge you a different tax rate or something like that, right? Destroy your own industry, bring it onto our land. I'll promise you a whole bunch of stuff, and then once you get it there, because that would be totally Trump, right? He had billions of dollars are being invested in car and truck plants across the country. That's not true. Figures he's described as a record in the history of car and truck manufacturing. That's not true. There's never been anything like what is happening in America today. That is true. Except what's happening in America today is not good. Bernd Lange, the chair of the European Parliament's International Trade Committee, told the BBC Trump's statement demonstrated, quote, just how unreliable the U.S. is as a trading partner. President Trump's behavior is unacceptable, the influential German MEP said, that's a member of European Parliament. He dismissed the president's argument that the EU was not fulfilling its side of the deal and said the European Parliament was in the process of drafting the necessary legislation which it aimed to finalize in June. Mr. Lange acknowledged his committee had paused implementation of the deal because of U.S. pressure over Greenland and the fallout over the U.S. Supreme Court decision. But he said the U.S. has repeatedly breached the agreement, pointing to products containing steel and aluminium, which are now subject to average tariffs of 26%. The United States did us too. So henceforth, it's not just the sheet metal and all that kind of stuff that's used there. Any product that you buy, whatever component of it that happens to be steel or aluminium, that component now has a 26% tariff on it now. Trump did that to us a couple of days ago. He said, this latest move demonstrates just how unreliable the U.S. side is. We have already witnessed these arbitrary attacks from the U.S. in the case of Greenland. This is no way to treat close partners. Now we can only respond with the utmost clarity and firmness, drawing on the strength of our position. Professor Simon Evnett, a trade expert at the IMD Business School, told BBC, those who reckon that this U.S. administration can't stick to any deal will feel vindicated. You're welcome. We've been trying to tell you. Mind you, social media posts aren't law, so Brussels will want to see the fine print before deciding to hit back. Trump's Liberation Day tariffs imposed under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, the IEEPA, have since been ruled illegal by the Supreme Court, with firms that paid up now seeking refunds after a Supreme Court decision. But the tariffs affecting cars fall under a different legal process and are not impacted by the Supreme Court ruling. So there you go, kits and cubs. So with Trump basically sabotaging himself left, right, and center, and making more and more people come to the position that Canada has, means that few and few people are going to want to do deal with him or even start engaging with him, which means there's going to come a point in this process where Trump is really, really going to need a win. And he might be willing to sacrifice a few things in order to get them. And when he finally gets to that point where the pain starts to be a lot, and he's ready to be the one making concessions, then we'll be ready to talk. Until then, as you can tell by the show, we've got more than enough going on to keep us busy. And that must be making Donald Trump mad, because once again, there is no one more sad and pitiful and pathetic than a neglected attention whore. Hi, Donald. We've stopped caring about you, and we just can't wait until you're gone. That's pretty much it. We've got nothing for you. We've got no time for you. We've got no deals for you. We've got no concessions for you. So you can come to the table and negotiate as a grown-up would, someone that has some experience in the field and has some gravitas, like our prime minister does. And if you do that, I'm sure that there's a deal there for you to be had. But if that's not what you want to do, if you'd rather just play games or just keep on inflicting drama or using trade stuff to divert from the mess you've made of your own country and the mess you've made of your life, um, we're washing our hair. We got other things to do. Call us when you're serious. We ain't got time to waste. Again, we shaved our legs. We did our hair. We did our nails. We put on our best outfit. We went to the singles bar and found out that and people like us. They think we're cute and charming. They think we're light, even. They want to see us again. They asked if we would be coming back next week so they could say hello again, maybe buy us a drink. Just saying. Oh, yeah. Other little interesting tidbit, by the way, for those who may have missed it, has nothing to do with Canada, whatnot, but for those who may have missed it, with what's going on in the world all these days, the price of condoms apparently very much affected by the trade skirmish. Interesting little note, according to Bloomberg News, is Anuradha Raghu. It would seem that the war is indeed raising the price of condoms. Now, I would assume that government was making decisions that made having a little afternoon delight more expensive, or just getting it on more expensive. That would be a very because everybody at one point or another in their lives pretty much has sex. But yes, Carrick's BHD, which makes 1 out of every 5 condoms worldwide, is preparing to raise its prices by as much as 30% as the continuing conflict destabilizes supply chains and drives up expenses, Chief Executive Gomi Kiat said in an interview with Bloomberg News. The surge in condom costs underscores how the Middle East war, which has already upended energy markets and raised prices for food to fertilizers, is disrupting virtually every aspect of life for consumers, even doing the nasty. The Malaysian company churns out about 5 billion condoms a year for brands such as Durex, as well as its own labels, including One Condoms and Carrick's. It owns United Kingdom-based Pasante Healthcare Limited, which supplies condoms to the National Health Service and provides private label products to retailers including Tesco plc and Boots. The condom price hike will take place within the next few months, Go said. Quote, we have been in the process of adjusting prices with most of our customers, and this is definitely one of the biggest price adjustments we've done in a very long time. Production costs for the world's largest condom maker have climbed about 25 to 30% since the war started, as shortages of oil-derived chemicals and higher raw material prices rippled through the supply chain. Rippled for your lack of pleasure. Sorry, I had to. It was sitting there. Go said the disruptions are also pushing up the cost of condom wrappers and lubricants, he said. Carrick's, whose product lineup includes glow-in-the-dark and nasi lemak flavored condoms, has enough raw materials to keep production running for the next 2 to 3 months. But beyond that, the outlook is cloudy, as the continuing supply of key ingredients is uncertain. Cloudy, with no chance of meatballs. The jokes write themselves. I'm sorry. Jeez. The company has enough raw materials to keep production running for the next 2 to 3 months, but beyond that, the outlook is cloudy as the continuing supply of key ingredients is uncertain if the war continues, Go said. Shares traded in Kuala Lumpur surged 14% on Wednesday, the biggest intraday advance since October 2025, before pairing gains. Condom stock prices got a rise. Things are looking up. Oh God, I think we've passed the 3 hour point because I'm getting silly. Oh my God. A Go did not rule out further price increases. If your price increase lasts more than 4 hours, call your accountant. Oh my God. I am so sorry. Oh my God. Okay. Back to the article. The company relies on a range of petrochemical linked materials, such as ammonia used to preserve latex, ethanol for packaging and printing, and silicone oil to lubricate each condom. He said since the start of the war, the cost of silicone oil has jumped about 30%, and nitrile latex prices have doubled, while natural rubber prices have climbed by a third since January. If nitrile latex prices have doubled, I'm guessing that's also going to affect the medical industry, the gloves and all of that kind of stuff. Finding substitutes isn't straightforward given strict regulatory requirements for medical products such as condoms, Go said. Rival producers in regions such as India are grappling with even deeper supply chain disruptions, Go said. Furthermore, the pullback of USAID donor support for health agencies to buy condoms has meant organizations are turning to the commercial market, creating more buyers, he said. See, uh, Trump's obsession with killing foreign aid and killing the PEPFAR program and all not only the PEPFAR program, because I think that one was for medications, but funding, for sexual reproduction, sexual health knowledge, and all that kind of stuff programs, global. This is what's happening here. Prevention transmission programs being affected here. For now, higher prices aren't expected to dent demand because the market for condoms is virtually inflation-proof, Go said. As the song goes, people are still having sex. Doesn't matter. It's a natural instinct. Regardless of the price of condoms, people are going to still have sex. I mean, not counting the price of. I won't go there. I was going to say it's the most fun you can have for free, but even that's not free anymore. Quote, in bad times, the need to use condoms is even more because you're uncertain with your future, whether you'd still have a job next year, he said. If you have a baby right now, you'll have one more mouth to feed, Bloomberg said. Yeah, I never thought about that because that's not particularly a concern for me. Being fabulous. And despite 13 years of trying to get pregnant, no success. Apparently, I have a hostile uterus. But yeah, being not being heterosexual, not necessarily concerned, but yeah, if you happen to be getting it on and you can't afford the condoms, 9 months later, your costs may go up. Interesting. Exactly. Look at Linda. Sex for women was never free. Yeah, you're telling me about that. Yeah, never free. And that's what every possible level that you could use the word free in there. Oy. The BDSM community is also going to get upset. Yeah, probably. Kid Saucy, we need to find more of these types of articles from Mr. Beaver. Mr. Beaver mocks the news. Oh my God. Okay, kits and cups. Oh my God. Condoms are more expensive. Oh my God. Right at the time where abortion is less accessible in the United States. Gee, talk about talk about a time. Kits and cups. We are well. This is way longer than I thought it was going to be. But like I said, there was just that much news this week about all the good stuff that was going on, and there was just so much movement that there was no time to fit this in. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode. Special episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to this because I'm having a great time making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring, and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do, especially if you include something of yourself saying why it is that our content tickled your fancy. Today, I can't stop. I can't stop. Uh, Kids and Cubs, if you would like to help us, for example, you can do so by scanning this QR code here, which will bring you to our YouTube page. If you're not already there, click on like, share, and subscribe. That helps us with the algorithm. If you have the opportunity to give us some hype points, I saw on a couple of our shows we have some, and that the hype points are starting to increase as some of you are increasingly being able to find it. So yay, keep those coming in. They are very, very, very helpful. I do appreciate them. And if you would like to help us in other ways, kids and cubs, say financial, we would really need your help. Hey, if you love the bonus, if I made you laugh a little bit, gave you some information, reassured you, made you feel better about our outlook with all this good news coming in, we could definitely use a financial boost from you as well. If you scan that QR code, that will bring you to our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And there you can make a contribution to the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund, where, again, I cannot help myself, but you need, where we do our best to keep our beaver nice and moist, especially since the price of silicone is going up. So, if you would like to keep your beaver moist and like to save them a 30% increase on the cost of silicone lube, then you might want to fill his cup with some lovely hot chocolate, his favorite beverage, or maybe a fruity smoothie, because you are what you drink. Just say. If you could want to do that, scan that QR code, kids and cubs. That will bring you to our coffee page. Again, coffee, ko-fi.com, eager beaver. Sorry, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And there you can make your contribution. We have it's set up so that you can make a one-time or a recurring donation. We really thank you. We get about 95 to 97% of your donation when you donate through coffee. So thank you so much for that. Another way is that you can donate, kids and cubs, is through our YouTube page. We have super chat and stickers and memberships, so you can do that. And if you are doing the Buy Canadian thing, kids and cubs, please go to True North Eager Beaver at gmail.com. That is our email address, and there you can send us a direct bank transfer from your institution to ours. No USCE Tech Bros. Take a share of your money, and when you donate that way, we actually get 100% of your donation. So thank you very much. And if you're not able to donate financially, please do not worry, because the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us. And that same email address there, that one right there, you can use that to let us know what you think about the show, good, bad, or ugly. Let us give us some tips for some guests that you would like to see. Ask us questions about the show or about politics that we can answer. We would be grateful to hear from you, or send us some of your good news too, because when we doom scroll, sometimes it gets a little much, and we love to get your good news. So please use our email address either to send us money or to send us word. Either way, we love to hear from you. So thank you very much for the time that you put into communicating with us. We really appreciate it. If you're looking for us on our socials, at True Eager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, also on the Shitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, our original page. We have the DamFam Discord if you like to keep the conversation going. There's the Instagram run by Kit Uncover. We also have our Substack called Beaver Bites. Go to all of those places. You can find us. And of course, our coffee page, as we mentioned, there you can find all our stuff. Kids and cubs, because democracy is something that you do, I'm going to tell you to take a day off. It's the weekend. Relax. Unless there's a protest to go to somewhere and you want to social and mingle while fighting for a good cause, then go ahead and do that. But it's a marathon, not a sprint. Sometimes you need to put your feet up and recharge for the next leg of the race. So let's do that this weekend. All right. I can't be giving you homework every day. Words of wisdom, kids and cubs. Don't despair. Don't despair. You are being bombarded for sure by lots of media sources that want you to believe that everything's going terrible and everything's wrong, and we're standing on the edge of a precipice, just waiting to make the next step and to fall into nothingness. There's a lot of unknown out there. Fear of the unknown is completely natural, but you're going to have some predatory people out there realizing that and trying to make you more fearful than you need to be, and sometimes trying to make you to make decisions in that state of fear. No good decision is usually made in that time. So please, don't despair. There's lots of good things happening. Lots of good things happening if you pay attention. They're not getting the time. They're not getting the news that they deserve. They're not getting the coverage they deserve because it's a less compelling story than everything's going to hell in a handbasket and we're all going to die. Right? But it is the story. It is the story. These things are happening. They are going on. We are making the deals. We're making the alliances. People are wanting to invest. We are taking the steps. We are selling ourselves. We are expressing our confidence. Things are going increasingly bad for the country south of us. At some point, what's happening over there is going to hit a head. And that's the point at which we will be able to come in and perhaps make a deal that's advantageous if there is a deal to be had. And even once we do, we cannot rest on our laurels or celebrate it because we know that this fathermucker south of us can change it on a whim just a couple of weeks later, like he just did to the Europeans. So there's no point in investing ourselves emotionally into this relationship until such time as we have someone there that's worth investing in. There's an expression I heard once. The genders are irrelevant here, so I'm just going to say person. The person that is worth your heart, the person that is worth your tears, will not make you cry. And the one that, no person that makes you cry is worth your tears. And the person that would be worth them will not make you cry. The United States is not that person. It's not that country at the moment. There's no point in us investing ourselves emotionally into it because all they are going to do is make us cry. We need to choose ourselves. And that's what we're doing. Don't despair. Better days are ahead. All right, kids and cubs. It could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And at the count of 3, may I please have a Mr. Beaver? Please cue the cock on 1, on 2, and on 3. Oh yeah, that sounded like the weekend. There's a party going on in there. There's a party going on out there. Okay, I hear you. I'm down. Here's a little cock-a-doodle-doo. Maybe with some club beats. Just for you. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, The Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community. And The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. Saucy, you're naughty. Naughty. Moist beaver may also be a good for menopause product for dryness issues. Hello, feeling a little dry? Try a little moist beaver. Terrible. You're terrible. All right, kids and cubs. Just a little bit of news from the world of sports ball for us before we go. Disappointing result last night if you were watching the Montreal Canadiens overtime loss going to game 7. No, I can't stand the tension. So yeah, we have one more in that first round, and hopefully one Canadian team will get through, or else once again I will be cursing Gary Bettman. I have a feeling that guy put a curse on our country and just said, like, you guys will never win another Stanley Cup so long as I'm ahead of the NHL. But today, if you are into it, kids and cubs, the PWHL has some Montreal Victoire for you at 2 p.m. Eastern Time and some Ottawa Charge against the Boston Fleet tonight at 7 p.m., I believe, for the Montreal Victoire. Was it their first match? Yes, their first match, whereas for Ottawa, it will be their second. Ottawa's already down 0 in their series. At the World Mixed Doubles Curling Championships, Team Canada lost to Sweden in the semifinal and played for bronze, but did win bronze today. So that's some good news for our duo. For some reason, I can only remember one of their names right now, Colton Lott, and I know his wife's name starts with K, and I'm so sorry that I cannot remember it off the top of my head. Oh God, that's terrible. But yes, they did win bronze today, trying to find out against who, because I saw the article very quickly. Secured the medal with an 11-3 victory over Italy. Stefania Constantini and Emma Massaner in just 6 ends, rebounding from a semifinal loss. And Team Italy is, I believe, the defending Olympic champion and world champion. So that is a big win, if I'm not mistaken there. I'm just going to take a look at that. Yes, dominant 11-3 loss. Kadriana, that's the way I couldn't find it. I knew I knew it was an original name. Kadriana and Colton Lott. I said to Colton again this morning, let's get that medal. And coming to an event like this, they're once in a lifetime opportunities, and to have a medal, you never know when you're going to be back. Kadriana Lott said, who earned her first ever world curling medal. The win also marked Colton Lott's second international medal of the season after winning silver last month, playing third for Team Dunstone at the World Men's Curling Championships. Quote, there's no words that can describe this feeling right now, Colton Lott said, other than just gratitude, just super, super proud of Kadriana. She carried herself so well this week and played so well. I'm happy for us, but I'm super happy for her to get her first ever world medal. Canada's 89% shooting accuracy outplaced Italy's 65%. A costly Italian miscue in the first end allowed Canada to jump ahead as Italy came up light on a draw, and Canada capitalized with a tap around a guard to score 4. Whoa, yes, that's a good start. That always gives you some confidence. So congratulations to them. And while those were going on, Kits and Cubs, at the same time, there was the World Senior Championships. And for the men, Canada was playing for the bronze medal against Switzerland and won 7-4. before. And for the women, it was also a bronze medal, playing against the United States, with Canada winning 8-1 there. A triplet of bronze medals from Curling World Championships for Canada. And there you go, kids and cubs. Hopefully you will tune in to the hockey matches. Oh yes, and I forgot, of course, Raptors, I think it was yesterday, managed to pick up a win against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Again, another close match, 112-110, with a 3-point, I think, buzzer beater right near the end to remain alive. Series tied at 3. Deciding match coming up relatively soon, but not tonight. It'll be not tonight, but Sunday night at 7:30 Eastern Time. All right, kids and cubs. Now you are completely updated on a very extended Daily Beaver bonus show. But like I said, there was just that much news. So I had to do it. All right, because I never would have caught up. And you needed to know this stuff. So there you go. Have a beaverific rest of a Saturday and Sunday, and we will see you again on Monday. Amour et bisous, mes petits amours. And I will see you soon. Bye, everyone.